Oh, Bob, your microphone's not on.
Oh, sorry. I was looking at Anna. Yes. There you go, Bob.
You mean you can't read lips? Sorry about it, everybody. Thank you all for being here. I'd like to call the March 2020 Committee on Accreditation meeting to order. Will the Secretary please call the roll?
Jomaline Bolatayo.
Here.
Mike Hillis.
Here.
Marty Martinez.
Here.
Cheryl Forbes. Sorry, Cheryl.
That's all right. Here.
Paul Fraley.
Here.
Anna Moore.
Here.
Gerard Morrison.
Yeah.
Iris Riggs.
Here.
Jose Luis Alvarado.
Present.
Kathy Cretia. Kathy Cretia.
I will reach out to her and make sure she knows how to log on.
Okay. Cynthia Amos. Cynthia Amos. Katrine Chakowski.
Here.
Commissioner Aide Rodriguez. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Well, unprecedented times, certainly, and thank you all for making the time to be here. I hope you are able to accommodate what's going on in your neck of the woods. But again, thank you so much. Hope you're all staying healthy. And I'm sure we'll all have stories to share after this, much like our walking 5 miles up the hill in snow back and forth to school, right? We'll all have stories to tell once we're through this, but thank you all for being here. So due to the COVID-19 crisis, the meeting protocols for today are going to be a little bit different, and so we're going to take a few minutes to walk through them before we get to today's agenda. First, this meeting is being conducted mostly via technology. Staff is maintaining a minimal presence in the commission building should any member of the public wish to attend in person, but everyone else is participating from their own location. This nearly all electronic assisted meeting makes logistics a little more challenging, and we're going to ask everyone for your patience. Before we take up each item, we'll need to make sure that all relevant parties are on or they can hear the committee and then we can hear them. So it's going to take a little bit more time than it usually would. Just a couple of housekeeping things regarding microphones. Anna already mentioned, they're going to mute the microphones to eliminate any background noise that may get in the way of others hearing what is being said by the speakers. Cheryl, is that going to be done from your end, or do you want us to continue to do it from our individual end?
Go ahead.
We can do it from our end at the commission where we can mute everyone. The challenge is not everyone in the meeting is a COA member. And so I think it's easiest if when a vote comes up, if all members unmute their own microphone by clicking on the microphone icon. And then as soon as you voted, remute your microphone.
Okay, that certainly works. Thanks, Carrie. Anybody who's going to be joining the meeting via technology who's not a committee member, please don't.
Bob, we just lost your voice.
It's not showing mute. Okay.
There you go. You're fine.
Okay. Committee members, some of you may be using the video audio functions and some of you may be using audio only, and we can see that. If you're using the video, please either physically raise your hand on camera or use the raise your hand feature in Zoom, or send a message in the chat feature in order to signal that you have a question or comment or would like to make a motion. Does everyone know how to access the raise the hand feature in Zoom?
Yes.
I see some yeses.
I think it might be helpful if you go to the participant section on the bottom of Zoom and click on that. On the right-hand side should be, oh, I'm sorry, it's under the chat. And under chat, it's not under chat. Okay, there it is. It is participants. It wasn't popping up. It says raise hand. There should be a button that says raise hand.
We'll be monitoring that throughout. And generally speaking, whoever's leading the meeting, I'll try to go ahead and monitor in the morning as far as who's raising the hand, and then we'll have someone from the commission who'll be looking at the chats, and then we'll kind of swap roles. Anna will be doing that once we take over about midday. There's going to be a bit of a time lag as we're doing the conversation, so just be patient and recognize that we will get to everybody. It may take a little more time than usual to call on everybody in person. We usually do things, but we will get to everyone. So it just, I guess, can just take a little more time. When we take time to asking questions or making motions, we're going to ask that you state specifically what the motion is so that everybody is clear what we're voting on. Sometimes there is that, when we're in person, we can make that connection and it's a little cleaner and easier to understand each other. So we just want to be sure the motion is very clearly stated, and we'll kind of go over that a little bit more details and move forward. Regarding roll call for each vote, because it's teleconference, we'll need to do every vote by roll call. So it'll take a little more time as well. And again, just please bear with us. But just before the vote, we'll remind everyone to make sure you are unmuted so that you don't miss an opportunity to state your vote and that we catch everybody's vote on the record. We are told by our legal staff that if you are unable to respond via video or audio, you may make your vote known through the chat function. The secretary will have to read your name and your vote when she gets to that part of the roll call vote to make it an official part of the record and to make sure what the vote is. Because this could be quite cumbersome, we'd like to leave this as the last option and only when necessary. Regarding public comment, if any member of the public wishes to speak or are joining us electronically, there is a time designated for public comment at the end of the meeting. If you wish to speak on a specific item, please send a request through the chat feature in Zoom telling us which item you wish to speak to so we can make sure to call on you during the appropriate time. Please make sure we have your full name and affiliation and which number and name that you wish to address. And if you do not have the video or audio feature, you can also send comments to the chat mode and we will go ahead and read aloud as well. Just a reminder regarding the recording, this meeting is being recorded just like it would be in person. And then after the meeting ends, the iCarved audio and video will be available via the Commission's website. So with all the precursor, any committee members have any questions about the protocols? All right, seeing none, thank you. We're going to move on to item 2. Item 2 is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda for the March 2020 meeting? So move. Okay, so member Alvarado's hand first. Is there a second?
Me. I'll second.
I'll
Anna.
second by Co-Chair Moore. And we'll need to do the roll call vote on this.
Jomaline Bulatayo.
Please
Aye.
unmute.
Aye.
Mike Hillis.
Aye.
Marty Martinez.
Aye.
Cheryl Forbes.
Aye.
Bob Fraley.
Aye.
Anna Moore.
Aye.
Gerard Morrison.
Aye.
Iris Riggs.
Aye.
Jose Luis Alvarado.
Aye.
Kathy Gracia.
Aye.
Kathy Gracia.
Aye.
Cynthia Almos. Cynthia Almos. Katrine Chakowski.
Aye.
Is that every, can you say motion carries?
That's everyone, Bob.
That's everybody. Okay, motion carries. Thank you. All right, item 3. Item 3 is the approval of the minutes of the prior meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the February 2020 meeting? It would be appropriate for any member who was not in attendance to abstain from the vote.
I motion to approve.
Approved. Motion by Committee Member Martinez. Is there a second? Second by Committee Member Forbes. Will the Secretary please call the roll call?
Jomaline Bulatayo.
Aye.
Mike Hillis.
Aye.
Marty Martinez.
Aye.
Cheryl Forbes.
Aye.
Bob Fraley.
Aye.
Anna Moore.
Abstain.
Gerard Morrison. Gerard Morrison. Iris Riggs.
Aye.
Jose Luis Alvarado.
Aye.
Kathy Gracia.
Aye.
Cynthia Almos. Katrine Chakowski.
Aye.
Can I ask Jerry, was that an aye vote?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't think my mic's picking up very well here. I got to get real close to the machine, but yes, I.
Okay, thank you, Jaron. All right, motion carries. Item 4. Item 4 are co-chair and members' reports. I don't have anything to report. Anna, do you have anything to report?
I do not. Thanks for checking.
Sure, absolutely. Any members wish to report anything? Member Forbes.
Well, I would just like to take a minute to express gratitude to the CTC staff for all of their guidance and support. With all the uncertainty that our candidates and our faculty are going through at this time, you've really been like a rock. And it's so good to know that we can count on you and collaborate with you. So thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you, Cheryl. Any other committee member wish to have a report? All right, seeing none, let's move on to item 5. Item 5, staff reports. Staff have any items to report? And Ms. Hickey, we'll start with you.
No, I'm gonna turn it over to Terry.
Okay.
I have quite a list this morning, and my goal is to, as I end with each item, is to look for hands that may have been raised. So I won't be monitoring the chat now for a while. In general, the last 2 weeks, the leadership of the agency has almost focused solely on COVID-19. I've jokingly said to some people, I did not get trained as a public health officer. I'm not a public health officer. I don't know how to do this job. But we have jumped right into it. The very first communication from Mary Vixie Sandy, our executive director, and Chair Tina Sloan from UC Santa Barbara was put out on March 12th. And it was saying, we're still looking, we're watching, we're monitoring. And things were very different on March 12th than they are today. As of now, commission staff is almost universally teleworking. The only staff in the office are the essential staff that have to be here in the building to keep things working. We have to have the front door open because we are a public agency. We have to accept mail, things like that. The governor's guidance for state workers regarding teleworking is that if it's appropriate, you should do so. And this is really a skeleton crew here in the building. The best way to contact any CTC staff member then, of course, is through email. That works really well. One of the things due to the fact that we are teleworking is that the certification staff can no longer use the phone system. We used to have phones open from 12:30 or 12 to 4 every day. Phones do not work because they're not in the building to access the phone system. Instead, though, we have our new chat feature, and the chat is available from the certification website. It is a little blue oval that says live chat at the bottom of the screen. It's also available on the COVID-19 webpage, and chat is actually open from 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. So we lost phones as an option of way to contact, but chat is open for a longer time during the day. I'm going to just take a breath right there to see if anyone has any questions on anything related to those first couple things. I've got a while to go, a number of more things. Not seeing any hands quite yet. So in the past week, Mary Vixie Sandy and I, along with Cheryl Hickey and Amy Rising, we've met through technology. We've met with the CSU deans, we've met with the AICCU deans, we met with the AICCU faculty, which they were very gracious, and they opened it up broadly to all interested faculty. That hit the 300 participants on that Zoom account. We met with the UC deans and directors just yesterday. Our goal is to gather information from you, and our goal is also to share what we know with you. And so we will continue meeting as needed. And I'm trying to share with you today a lot of the information we have shared with those organizations. At this time, we're working towards the April Commission meeting taking place very much like today's COA meeting through technology. When we posted the agenda for today's COA meeting, there had been an executive order that addressed Bagley-Keene that said it would be acceptable to do a technology-based meeting and that we did not have to notice all the locations where each of the members are. Remember, when we do our traditional technology meeting in the late summer, early fall, we actually have to ask each of the COA members, where will you physically be? We need your address. We have to put it on the agenda, and you have to post a notice outside your location saying this is a COA meeting. The first executive order that included Bagley-Keene information said we don't have to do that during this crisis. The second executive order from the governor's office that allowed additional flexibility with Bagley-Keene says we actually don't even have to have a physical location for the meeting. We have all come to the office. We don't usually come to the office now, but we came to the office. We have technology staff in the office with us because we had already noticed this as a physical location for this meeting and that anyone could come here to provide public comment. The newest of the executive orders that addresses Bagley-Keene allows a full technology meeting, ensuring that the public still has the ability to participate in the meeting by providing public comment through technology. And that is the plan we're working towards with the commission meeting on April 23rd and 24th. And you're going to hear more as I keep talking about why that commission meeting is going to be so important. On top of this, though, the crisis and the craziness about COVID and what do we do and how do we do it, PSD staff has continued their routine work. Yesterday, a common standards review was held. Aaron Sullivan facilitated it. It went really smoothly. It was 100% through technology, and I believe, was it 5 institutions, Aaron? 6 institutions. Common standards were reviewed using the Zoom platform. We had breakout rooms. Each common standards team for an institution with the consultant was able to work in their breakout room as if they were in the same room together. In addition, we're finalizing the program review feedback. We're getting ready to send it out. Pre-visits are taking place for next year's site visits. Pre-visits are taking place for 2-month out pre-visits for this year, the remaining site visits for this year. On the topic of remaining site visits for this year, all of those site visits had been moved to a technology platform. If an institution doesn't think that they can successfully work with the technology platform, we have postponed a few visits into fall. The more visits we postpone into fall, of course, the more challenging fall is going to be because we have next year's visits still coming. It's the same thing we're doing in a lot of our world right now with this, but we have really tried to embrace technology, and I want to give a really big shout out to Jake Schuler, who did facilitate a complex visit this week. He had multiple Zoom rooms going. He had 3 monitors because he has a toddler at home. He was in the office by himself with all the monitors so he could facilitate that meeting. Gay Roby and Sarah Solari have also facilitated technology meetings in the last 2 weeks. So the rest of this year's site visits are through technology. We have worked with the fiscal group here at the agency because as we were going through the interview schedule, we realized an interview schedule normally gives 30 minutes for lunch and 30 minutes for dinner and expects people to keep working. Even though team members are at home, they can't get a meal in that amount of time. So we are working out a situation where they can be reimbursed at the state rate to be able to have food during their site visit. We can't expect them to do the visit without any food. Taking a breath here, I'm still not seeing hands. Amy Rising and the performance assessment team has met with both the Cal TPA and the APA coordinators and the faculty in providing guidance. That guidance will continue coming. We have a plan for the Ed TPA platform to set up, we're working for a date to set up a webinar where Ed TPA scale people will be on it as well as commission staff. So we're trying to get information out as much as possible. All other meetings and work for the foreseeable future have been moved to technology because the bilingual authorization work group and the California Standards for the Teaching Profession work group were both getting ready to start. One of them was supposed to start next week and the other one later in April. We have actually canceled those meetings and we're going to start with the next meeting, which is in May. Those meetings may very well take place through technology. The special ed design team that's working on the Cal TPA and amending it and making it work for special ed candidates, it had already met once in February and then the March meeting came. We weren't ready to really go to a full 2-day technology meeting, so we had a half-day meeting with the group and did some work, but we are moving forward in April with the plan for a full technology design team meeting. We are hearing that in addition to the K-12 schools, the universities closing their physical locations, we know the testing centers are also closing. That is a challenge because that means people can't get a test that they're going to need. So we're going to talk a little more about that as I continue on. We also had heard that live scan centers were closing. So I did a quick search last night, and in the general Sacramento area, live scans are still open, although there are somewhat more limited hours. Live scans are where candidates need to go and applicants need to go to get their fingerprints turned in so they can get that certificate of clearance. So what have we done about COVID-19? There's a COVID-19 webpage on the Commission's website. I never thought I would say something like that, but there is a COVID-19 webpage. That first information memorandum from Mary Vixie Sandy and Chair Sloan was put there, and a lot more information is there now. We really encourage you to visit that page regularly. Yesterday, general guidance and direction was posted there, and what it was intended to do for programs is to really help programs understand where do you have flexibility and where isn't there flexibility at this point in time. The areas for flexibility, we really want programs to think as creatively and flexibly and maybe even out of the box about your coursework design and sequence, how fieldwork can be accomplished, clinical practice, your program embedded assessments. Every commission-approved program has the right to modify those activities as is appropriate. And in this crisis time, we need to have you make some modifications. We are not asking that any program modify their course matrix for what you're doing during the COVID crisis. Instead of updating having a whole different course matrix, what we're going to ask you to do per program is a summary of how you modified. How did you modify coursework? How did you modify clinical practice? What assessments did you modify? We haven't really had time as staff to talk about this fully yet, but off the top of my head, we're thinking no more than a 5-page summary per program. It is a summary of what you've done. Keep that document. If you have an accreditation visit coming up next year, the team will look at that document and understand you have made modifications. The Commission adopts its program standards, and it can modify or amend its program standards at any regularly scheduled meeting. And we are preparing an item for the April Commission meeting to allow the Commission to decide where it would like to provide programs and candidates additional flexibility above and beyond what I just said about be thoughtful, be creative, be as flexible as you can. There are still some areas where a Commission standard specifies something. For example, in the multiple and single subject standards, it specifies that in a semester, a candidate is formally observed 6 times. In a quarter, they're formally observed 4 times. That is something the Commission could think about and decide to say, you know, we want to be more flexible about that in this COVID crisis. So look to the program standards. Identify if you have something that you think in the program standards would be amazing to have additional flexibility for a program. Any type of educator preparation program, feel free to email me. I'm collecting all that information. I've just opened myself up to a lot of emails, but that's okay. We are working on getting that organized for the Commission agenda.
Terry, just to clarify, you're talking about during this crisis, not
during the COVID
standards
crisis.
in general.
We're talking during this crisis. The state of California has declared a kind of a state of emergency. This has been declared a pandemic during this crisis. Now, we have no knowledge when this crisis will end just yet, but our goal is that candidates that are moving through programs not be unduly hampered. On the other hand, though, there are some regulations and requirements that are specified in the California Education Code or in Title V regulations. These requirements cannot be amended by you as a program, by staff, nor by the Commission. They can be changed through an executive order from the governor, and they can be changed by the legislature passing legislation. We are analyzing all the different requirements to see where would it be appropriate to request an executive order, where might it be appropriate to have some legislation. And I've got a couple examples right here to talk about. There were already some bills that were being proposed to address things like basic skills requirement, the subject matter requirement, the RECA requirement. Those are still going to be considered, and it's very possible that in this crisis, those bills could continue to move forward and give us additional flexibility. Other areas where we cannot have any flexibility at this point in time are things like the certificate of clearance. That is a requirement in Ed Code as well as in Title V regulations. The COVID-19 webpage now, I think, lays out pretty clearly. Here are the things you may not modify at this point in time. So please check that COVID-19 webpage. You might say, how do I find the COVID-19 webpage? If you can get to the commission webpage, you can't miss it because there is a green banner across the top of the commission's webpage on every single webpage that says COVID-19, click here. So please check that out. Going back to those bills, there's a bill already that's been entered about the basic skills assessment. That's the Cunningham Bill. It's AB 1982 for people who are tracking those things. The Cunningham Bill is proposing that if a candidate has taken a class at a 2 or 4 year institution and has gotten a B or better in that class, and it makes sense since it's basic skills, it's a class in writing, a class in mathematics, that would be allowed to stand instead of a CBEST or having an SAT score or an ACT score. We are working with the author. We are talking about this. This is not just flexibility for the COVID situation. This could be flexibility for candidates in general. In the area of subject matter, there's a bill that's already been proposed. It's CALRA, AB 2484. That has to do with flexibility about subject matter assessments. And right now you can either do a CSET, you can do a commission-approved subject matter program. It's only 2 options. What we're proposing in that bill is those 2 options could be mixed and matched. So in multiple subject credentials, you know there are 3 subtests to the CSET. There's the English and History Social Studies subtest, there's the Math and Science subtest, and then there's the Child Development, Visual and Performing Arts, and PE subtest. Most candidates have trouble with subtest 2, Math and Science. This bill would propose that if maybe they've passed subtests 1 and 3, if they've taken courses in the domains of subtest 2, Math and Science, that could stand instead of the CSET. So that's one part of that bill. Another part of that bill is saying rather than having to only allow a commission-approved subject matter program, what if it was possible for a candidate to submit coursework addressing each of the domains of the adopted subject matter requirements? So it's not truly approving a major. There's a real challenge in trying to approve majors. What counts for biological sciences? Does oceanography count? Does marine biology count? So major titles are very challenging. But there are adopted subject matter requirements, SMRs. Those are organized into domains, which are little bigger topical areas. And what's being proposed in that bill is if a candidate has taken a course at a 2 or 4 year institution, pass that course, and that course addresses the domains, that the candidate could in essence complete a form saying here is each course for each of the domains, the course description, and that a teacher preparation program could look at that and say, yep, that's good enough. It verifies that they've passed the subject matter. So this AB 2484 is out there and could allow that type of flexibility. There's another bill, Senate Bill 614, the Rubio bill. That's about the RECA assessment. Originally, that bill was proposed to just remove it in essence. That is not what the bill proposes any longer. The bill says moving it to a program-embedded performance assessment. And we've had some conversation at part of the Cal Council conference last week, all held on technology. We talked about this a little bit. The idea that this could move forward, that would allow candidates in programs would work and have a solid assessment, maybe even there's a statewide rubric that could be applied, and the program would verify the candidate had the knowledge and skills to develop literacy and teach the foundational skills of teaching reading. The general point of all of these bills is to allow a coursework option for candidates that aren't being successful with the more standardized assessment. This could be helpful to current candidates. It could be helpful to future candidates. And in the current environment, it may be something that we can move forward as part of the emergency way to address COVID. But this is an area that could possibly stay long term.
Terry, I'm going to jump in for 1 second because
I can take a breath.
We have some comments on chat, and since we're all getting used to this new mode of operating, I'm a little concerned that some of the comments on chat then should actually be expressed verbally so that it's on as part of the record. since this is a public meeting. So I think maybe the chat should be reserved for questions or for raised hands, so that we can call on you, so that way you can make your comments publicly. So I'm going to go back to Katrine, and then I think we have Jose has a question. Great. So those two I know have some comments, and I know you have more to talk about too. Katrine, let's talk to her.
Katrine, can you unmute and go ahead and share?
Yeah, this is Katrina. I just wanted to make the comment, as Terry was describing observations as a particular requirement that might require, flexibility and creativity. I think maybe what would be helpful to people in the field is to maybe redefine or reconceptualize what important components of those standards are, so that we can envision what they look like in an online or virtual environment. Observation is a good example, because teachers and students are going to be interacting with each other anyway. And for induction, we've already thought we could just video through SIBME a person having a video conference with a student or a group of students, and that would suffice as an observation of a group of kids. So observation means something different in an online context. So maybe just providing, key elements of the standard, and then, in person versus online, so people can kind of think of how they might look. And we have more, I don't know if it's like construct validity for the components of the standards that way.
Katrine, thank you. That's a very important detail. We've tried to do some of that. I think we need to do more of it. If you go to the COVID-19 webpage on the Commission's website, you will find that there is actually a document there about field experience or clinical practice. And that clinical practice document starts this conversation. It really provides some guidance to say, what does it mean to be in supervised clinical practice? And the key ideas we've identified is, you're working with an experienced teacher, whether it's a program supervisor or it's a district employed supervisor. You are being guided by and working with an experienced teacher. Let's not hold to say, is it specific to their assigned teacher? Let's be a little flexible on who is that experienced teacher they're working with. We also provided some information in there about what does support and supervision mean. And we were trying to back away a little bit from the actual numbers. We were going to take the idea of the 6 and the 4 to the Commission in April for flexibility. But what we did is we also kind of defined what are the attributes of supervision. The candidate is getting guidance. We're ensuring that K-12 students are having high quality instruction. There's data or information being gathered that helps the candidate improve and helps the program improve. So you're right, Katrine, we could do a lot more work in that area, and we're making a list, adding it to our to-do list. Thank you. Jose Luis was next, I think.
So my question is about establishing subject matter competency and being able to use coursework. Is that in combination with portions of the exam, of the CSET exam?
It could be with it. It could be in combination with portions of the exam, and it also could be 100% coursework. And right now, the plan is that the document would be submitted to a commission-approved teacher preparation program. And we're still working. This is not a done bill. It's not been completed in the process. It's not been signed. But the idea right now is that a teacher preparation program would have the ability to make the yes or no decision, hopefully working with their arts and science faculty if they feel that need, to make sure that it is a good decision.
Because I mean, we're already doing that, where we have candidates coming from elsewhere, and they completed their undergrad with us. So we're reviewing to make sure that they meet those standards, particularly for transfer students. They might have attended multiple community colleges, but I can tell you that it varies depending on the size of the campus. We really can't make that review if a student is planning on going to a different campus to complete their teacher preparation programs. We can barely handle the workload just for the students going into our credential programs.
That's very true. And right now we're looking at it as the teacher preparation program is the decider on the review. So you would only look at the people coming into your own program. And you wouldn't have to have a commission approved subject matter program to necessarily do this. Other comments or questions before I go on? Okay, I was on a roll. Let's figure out where I was on this long list. It was quite a list that I was pulling together. So we are still pulling together information. So if you do have ideas or suggestions, send it in to us. On that same COVID-19 webpage, there is a guidance document for induction programs, teacher and leader induction programs, as well as yesterday, a guidance document for pupil personnel services programs was posted. Okay. So as a standards board and a licensing agency, one of our key roles is to ensure that those who hold a license have the knowledge and skills to be effective educators, have not done any inappropriate behaviors with felonies or inappropriate activities as far as being able to be effective and safe around children. We know that there's a need for more educators in the 2021 year coming up. We know that programs have already accepted candidates for the next upcoming year. So in some ways, we have a goal to do our collective best to help candidates finish their current programs if they can. Thinking about the flexibility about what counts for clinical practice. We're looking into additional supports for performance assessment so that the assessors understand that online teaching is acceptable. Interacting with colleagues as a prospective administrator through an online environment is a possible way to complete the APA. So we do hope that that works for a significant number of our candidates. There is a waiver that we're working on that would allow candidates more time to complete their requirements and also allow them to be employed as that educator, whether it's a teacher, a counselor, an administrator, any of our credential areas. That waiver is available to allow them more time. We are working on what do we need to know from programs, if anything, to get that waiver to be available to your candidates. There is a challenge in that if there is a candidate that has not yet finished the program, there isn't about some level of support and supervision that is needed in that year, that practice time that they have in the next school year. Separate from all of these concerns and issues are the prospective 2021 candidates and all those other individuals out there in our schools who are teaching on less than full credentials. Many of them have a requirement to take a test to keep that STIP or PIP, or maybe they have a preliminary and they came here from out of state and hadn't done basic skills, so they have to do a CSET test, a CBEST, one of the CBEST subtests, things like that. With the testing centers not currently being opened, this is a concern. We're gathering information on this. We're trying to identify what can happen. We're looking at the idea of a possible extension, where if someone currently has a license that says you must do X, Y, or Z to keep that license, what if we could extend that license for 6 months, a year, and say you can keep doing what you've been doing, and that requirement that you have to meet gets extended further out. One of the other executive orders I should also mention is the executive order that has allowed the Commission's statutory requirements. We have deadlines, dates in statute, such as all credential applications have to be processed within 50 days. This is becoming a challenge sometimes. Other deadlines having to do with the discipline process, how quickly a case has to move to the Committee of Credentials, how quickly the person has to be talked with, things like that. There has been an executive order that gives the Commission an extra 60 days to deal with its statutory deadlines. That doesn't seem to be enough of an extension for these candidates who have not been able to take a test. I think we're going to have to look at a longer extension option for that. And in talking with our certification staff, we do believe there isn't a way that the Commission could take an action to say an extension of a year could take place. Although we're unclear We know some K-12 schools are opening now. We know some K-12 schools are moving to online graded instruction within this next month. This looks like a really great opportunity for candidates to really complete their clinical practice. So we really are encouraging programs to work with your districts, talk with them. They've been just in crisis mode also, but as we move into next week and the week after, reach out to those districts to find out how can our candidates continue to support. A lot of your candidates have a lot of technology skills. They could really be helpful to current classroom teachers, current educators that may not feel they have as much of those skills. One of the other concerning points is we actually don't know when normal is going to return. There's been some concern that something like this could happen again in the fall where we are sheltering again. So we don't know what the 2021 school year is going to necessarily look like. And as I think Katrine put it, we have to be forward thinking. We have to think of this as an opportunity. And so that's what I'm trying to encourage all programs to think about. Let me pause there. Hand up, I was in the chat room. Go ahead, Jose Luis.
So with regards to our candidates supporting school districts in their delivery of online instruction, the reality for us is that we have districts that serve areas of our county that actually don't even have broadband. And so as a consequence, many of the school districts are actually doing almost like mailing packets for students to work at home. And so it's more than just online delivery. It's all sorts of distance education modes. And the question related to that is, how can our candidates meet the CalTPA or ETPA requirements, given that not everything is online instruction? Some of it is other alternative methods. And what are the thoughts around that?
We want to be as flexible as we possibly can, and that's a really good reminder to us. Mary Sandy, I see you're with us. If you have some additional guidance, I'd love for you to unmute and share some right now.
I have unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. We've been, this week has really been a fairly intense deep dive with the teaching performance assessment and administrator performance assessment communities working on these very questions. To the extent possible, we are urging and supportive of innovation with regard to distance learning. I appreciate that frame, Jose. I keep thinking about this as online and then worrying about the people who don't have access to online. The real answer is we're not sure exactly what this is going to look like yet. We are hearing from districts, however. San Diego Unified School District just released a press release saying that they plan to open for graded instruction online beginning April 27th, which suggests to me that they've done a lot of work to get themselves geared for that, and they're planning for a longer haul than just a few weeks. I heard from Goleta Union High School District that they are, ready to be back in business and hoping that their student teachers are going to come back and work with them in whatever mode they're working. So the fact is we're not sure exactly what kind of experience this will be for people completing their performance assessment work. But what we do know is that this is teaching. And the whole of the K-12 community is trying to figure out how to keep teaching and learning going under these circumstances. And what an extraordinary opportunity for our candidates in practice to be in the sidecar on that. All of that is, kind of more, maybe my optimistic view coming through, recognizing that there are going to be difficulties and challenges here that we can't even begin to anticipate. Our hope is that every candidate will have the opportunity to use the experience they're in right now to complete their program and get their credential this year. The variable term waiver that Terry described just a moment ago is a real opportunity that exists right now for programs to request variable term waivers for their candidates who cannot complete. And those candidates would then have a one-year extension and could actually secure a position teaching or leading if it's an administrator performance assessment, or counseling if it's a PPS credential, and complete their requirements during their first year of service. So those are the options we have right now. We really hope that there will be a lot of generative thinking within and across our communities to help us think about how to think about distance learning when there is no bandwidth, and distance learning when we have highly evolved online opportunities. So I hope that's helpful.
It is. Thank you. Member Riggs, you have a question?
Yes, I may just not be up to date, but the last I'd heard about the 600-hour requirement was that perhaps 100 hours of that would be waived. Related to flexibility, on our own campus, we have students who've taken 2 quarters, and so they've completed 1 quarter of student teaching, 1 full quarter of field work, and they've taken 1 TPA. And based upon their performance and all of those things, and in addition to coursework, if we want flexibility, I just wish that there was a way to be flexible with that 600 hours as those folks go forward. I realize we can't do anything about the TPA, but with requiring more student teaching as an employed teacher, I don't know that that would be necessary for candidates like that in this time.
Iris, we are definitely working on that topic, and staff cannot say that the 600 hours are not required. The commission can say that. So we're definitely putting that in the April agenda item. We've also had a conversation such as, we can't make this decision, but what if any candidate who has a minimum of 300 hours and has passed the TPA? Maybe they don't need to finish the 600 hours this year. So we are taking that item forward. We're going to give the commission some options to think about and ask them to make their best decision. And Mary's been working with Chair Sloan almost on a multiple time a day basis. And so we do think that is going to go forward. The guidance that PSD put out initially is, of course you can flex 20 or so hours. We really can't as staff tell you anything more than that. But again, think broadly. What we've told the deans, if a candidate has planned a lesson, taught the lesson, analyzed the work from the lesson, and reflected, who cares if that was back in September? Count those 4 hours for that. Be as flexible and generous and authentic as you can be. So we really don't want anyone who is really prepared to go out and teach, has passed a TPA, to not be able to get their credential. That is a goal.
Terry, can I jump in there, Terry? Also,
yes.
This is Mary again. I think that, and this probably goes without saying, but may be important for us to say, the number of hours is less important than the determination that the candidate is ready to move forward. We set an hour requirement because the range in California was so extreme, and we knew what the research said about the criticality of clinical practice in order to really deepen and get to readiness to teach. So we set a 600-hour because that was consistent with a national norm and with what research said was the critical norm. We are in a moment when we have to understand what flexibility means. None of us in this profession want to be flexible about letting unprepared teachers into the classroom. We want them prepared. And your job, those of you that are running programs, and the job of everyone that we accredit who's running a program, is to heighten their senses to the readiness of their candidates to be recommended for a credential. So if it's 550 hours instead of 600 hours, I don't see us having a problem with that. I don't personally have a problem with that, and I don't see the commission having a problem with that. It's really got to be about the readiness of the candidate and the judgment of the faculty that prepared that candidate with all of the evidence they do have that the candidate is ready to begin. And that's where the recommendation needs to be located, not in the meticulous counting of hours.
Thank you. I see we have a few other questions. We'll take in order Member Hillis, then Member Tchaikovsky, and then Member Alvarado. So Member Hillis, you're first.
Just a quick question of clarification. For the variable term waiver, would that be a program request to CTC, or would that be by individual candidate?
The program.
Terry, would you like me to jump in on that one?
Go ahead, Mary. Yes, go ahead, Mary.
We are finalizing a guidance document on that very topic, and the answer is yes. The way that the variable term waiver works is that every program or every institution would request a variable term waiver for their candidates who were unable to complete requirements this year. We, in fact, need to have that request and would recommend that every program submit one as an insurance policy, if you will, that if their candidates cannot complete this year, they can complete next year. They'll have a year extension. The way these requests for that waiver will work is that institutions would submit a request. We'll have language about how that request needs to be framed in order to be to comply with the regulation on this. The commission will have the opportunity to vote on that at their April 23rd and 4th meeting. I expect the commission is likely to vote unanimously in favor of that. And at that point, you are still working, the programs are still going to be working, I hope, to help their candidates that are ready to finish this year. But in case they aren't, they can recommend them for the variable term waiver because the commission will have authorized it. And then those candidates will get that waiver. With that waiver in their hand, they can secure a position and they will have a year to complete. They still have to be affiliated with their program because the programs are still responsible for making a recommendation for the preliminary credential at the end of that variable term waiver. And so getting them through and supporting them in all the ways the standards require will be part of what's necessary to move off the variable term waiver into the preliminary credential after a year. I hope that answered your question.
Great, thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Member Tchaikovsky.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the comment you just made because I'm thinking through a residency lens, and there are some financial commitments involved in that that endeavor where candidates have basically committed themselves to teaching in our state for 4 years in exchange to $20,000 being invested in them. And so I think this variable term ought to explicitly address that dimension of commitment. If there's variable term, I really like that idea. We have one resident who may be on an assistance plan in our district, and clearly interacting, and the reason why, I mean, let's face it, interacting with 40 7th graders is a very different gig than providing feedback one-to-one via online formats or looking at packets of work. Handling the masses is a reality of teaching in public schools in California. So that's the area where this particular resident is struggling. So the reason why I'm talking about this is I think as long as the variable term has in it very specific supports, so that if and when this candidate is allowed to take a teaching position, he is ensured the support that he would have had if we weren't in an online context. So just being very specific about if there's going to be an extension, how is that extension going to allow for people to get the specific guidance, support, resources that they need to thrive once that term of their credential has in fact ended.
All right, thank you, Member Tchaikovsky. And Member yes, Alvarado. Did you already answer your question?
Yeah, no. This is for Mary. Mary, you mentioned so creativity and flexibility in meeting the 600-hour requirement, and I get that. I'm wondering if the commission can consider those same principles when it comes to performance assessment, the performance assessment requirement. Mm-hmm. Maybe, can be portions of or substituted, or, again, I leave that up for discussion for the commission, but at least the recommendation that the same level of flexibility with the hour requirement be considered for performance assessment as well.
So briefly, what I would say about that is that we are not at this stage anticipating altering the assessment itself, but we recognize that the conditions in which the assessment is completed have altered significantly. And that's where we are really looking for and supporting flexibility in terms of online and distance learning. To the extent that, I mean, the key issues there are that the candidate is able to collect sufficient evidence. And the video evidence is the challenging part of this when you don't have the same classroom setting that you used to have. So, you know, we are open to the different ways in which that could occur. If I were a professor and this was my classroom and I needed to demonstrate my performance in some way, I'm looking at this whole setup and I think I could do it. I think I could capture video evidence that we were having an effective engagement in this format. So I have a reasonable belief that it's possible for teaching and learning to be captured in a video way with groups of students, you know, in ways that keep a performance assessment moving forward. I believe this is also possible with the administrator performance assessment, but altering what we ask them to do in the performance assessment is not something that we're prepared to ask the commission to do. Time and setting and appropriate training of our assessors to understand the variability of setting, that's where we are looking at flexibility with performance assessment.
So just a quick comment on that is that, again, we're assuming that it's all going to be online learning, and it isn't.
Right.
And so you can't, how do you do video when a candidate is working with a teacher to develop learning packets to be mailed out? And you know, so how do you meet the performance assessment requirements, video requirements, when it doesn't involve online learning? It's distance education, but it's not online learning.
And that I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. We are sensitive to the possibility that candidates may need to change their clinical practice setting so that they do have the ability to collect the evidence necessary for the assessment. So this is what we know right now. And again, I think this is what every public official is saying in every open conversation, is that the situation is changing daily, hourly, sometimes. But at the moment, this is our thinking up to the moment. You know, and I don't have any other notions or ideas that I can put on the table about how to accomplish that particular part of it, other than to get to a setting where it's possible to collect the evidence that you need to demonstrate what you're doing with students.
All right, thank you. And then Member Tchaikovsky.
I must have a disorder, because when I hear this conversation, I keep thinking, oh, we could do that, or we could try this, and then maybe these people could do that. And maybe as a result of Jose Luis's question, there's a lot more people who would not normally be connected to online resources who now have become, through requirements, connected somehow. I don't think we know what that looks like yet, obviously, but I guess I would numerous times about exemplary practices. How can we capture what school districts are doing? How can we create little vignettes or snapshots or examples of how it is that kids in the Imperial Valley are actually able to review assignments over the phone with their teacher? Like, maybe there's a way that conference calls or connect people, if not online, via landlines. I mean, surely this is 2020. And if there's ever been an imperative for expanding access, it's now. So this could be an absolute opportunity to do things that we wouldn't do unless we were in extremis. So here I am being a little, Chicken Little Goldilocks kind of combination. And I think maybe if that's something CTC could try to find some time for, is if there's a little example of what's being done out there, collect them.
We will be thank you. This is very helpful that you've mentioned these things. We'll add it to our list.
I told Bob I have to ask. I promised the consultants I would raise this issue before we move on to another item. So Terry mentioned how we're moving forward with the final site visit reports. We have about 8 or 9, I think, site visits still to do. We are going to try to get them done this year. As you know, obviously, if that's not possible, we will postpone whatever ones we have to postpone. But we are moving forward. Institutions are ready. They're, they put a lot of time and effort into having a site visit this year. They're ready to go. So they, a lot of them prefer to just get it done this year. We've had a lot of conversations this year about numbers of interviews. And consultants are a little concerned that even in light of the current COVID situation and moving forward with these visits electronically, that in some manner, I guess we would like a little reassurance from the COA that we understand we're in an exceptional time period and that there will be some flexibility in and around the numbers of interviews that are being conducted. So I guess I'm going to pose that to our 2 co-chairs so that, because our professional staff here is very concerned about that. We are doing everything we can to still talk to everybody we can at site visits. And
I want to add to that, what we've counseled staff to do is to ensure that you push on the team to say, are you confident with what you're hearing? If there's any area that's not confident, we will go out and find more people. But there is the reality that because people are joining through Zoom, they're joining through technology, we may not have exactly the numbers that we would like. And so they just really wanted to make you aware of that. We are doing the absolute best. We are not moving forward with decisions if there's not preponderance of evidence, but some of the numbers may not look quite as robust as you would like them to and as they have been in the past.
I think that's certainly understandable. I mean, teaching at a university, I'm on campus now and it's dead. There's nobody here and it's difficult to get a hold of students. I know they're all scattered, so even trying to do my own classes is difficult. So I can only imagine the challenges that are there in trying to get interviews done virtually. So I think that's certainly understandable. Anna, do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, I think we might have to just go to more interviews. It may be if you only had 5 people who showed up on a Zoom meeting, but there's 3 or 4 other folks out there that we'd like to talk to, then you hold another meeting rather than just go, well, we didn't get enough information and stop it at that. Let's just move forward with more Zooms as we need to collect the evidence we need.
And Marty had made a comment here, which is great. It says it's an opportunity to be flexible and creative, and that we have no doubt about the quality and depth of interviews we will conduct, even if the numbers may be fewer. I completely agree. I think we all agree with that. That we certainly trust the work of the CTC and the staff there and the review teams. So I don't think that will be in question, unless anybody else has any deep thoughts or concerns.
thank you. I think that's very much appreciated by the staff here.
Can I just say one thing, because I did raise my hand on that one. I think there are different ways to do interviews other than Zoom. And I would say I have appreciated the way West Ed has interacted with recipients of the residency grants on behalf of the CTC, in that they've kind of offered us a chance to provide feedback via email or via phone or other modes. So I've got to say that I think talking to the number of people, as many people as necessary is important. And I'm not satisfied with just reducing that number because we can't get them. I'd much rather have a time frame of a week where questions are sent to people to respond via email at their convenience, and they don't have to appear on a screen at a given time. Like, to me, it seems like you can get the same feedback in a time marked context doing it via email. So I'd like to suggest that be a way to increase the number of people spoken with.
Thank you, Katrina. I did see your hand, just didn't get you in time, but thank you for the comments. Anna, do you have any thoughts on that? I mean, my initial thought on that is that I do understand the need to try to get as many people involved as possible. And I think that the staff would certainly do their work, and the review teams that go out there to look at email and as many as possible technology options to make that, so that the numbers, pardon me, so the numbers are still valid to provide a significant number of reports that we can pull from.
Great.
Cheryl,
Thank
what
you.
are your thoughts on that?
No, that's helpful. I mean, I think we are doing everything we can given this environment, and it's not so much a matter of modality, because I think we are using a variety of modalities and having phone calls, you know, not necessarily tied to the specific dates, but it's availability. It's people who have sick family members. It's people who are taking care of their child. You know, it's just the situation currently. And so I think we are turning over every rock and stone that we can, and we are doing what we can. So we will just see how it proceeds for the remainder of the next month or so. Thank you for this, though. Very helpful.
All right, thank you, Cheryl. Terry, was there anything else you wanted to add on your report?
No, that's as much reporting as I think we can do today. And I know we have item 6 with some people on ready to help answer questions. So nope, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you. So let's do this, committee. Let's go ahead and go through item 6, and then maybe we'll do a quick stretch break after that before we dive into all the time certains. So item 6, program approval recommendations. This section is for action, and there are 3 institutions with 4 programs for approval. And given the complicated nature of this meeting, I suggest we take these one by one institution. And the first one is going to be California State University, San Bernardino, Designated Subjects, Adult Education. And joining us today to answer any questions about the proposed program at CSU San Bernardino are Dean Chinakwa Domwachukwu. Oh, I had this. Dean Chinakwa Domwachukwu. Did I say that correctly? Is he with us?
Unfortunately,
No,
Dean
it's not.
Domwachukwu had to sign out for another meeting.
Domwachukwu. Okay. Thank you. And Dr. Marita
No,
Mahoney.
it's not 9:45.
Yes.
It's number 8.
Good morning, all.
Are we a bit early on? Are we okay on this, Cheryl? I hear you in the
I think
background.
we're fine. And can you also ask if anyone needs to recuse themselves?
Sure. I was going to follow the script, which was to introduce everyone first and then ask for recusals. So we had Dr. Marita Mahoney, Director of the Office of Assessment and Research.
Good morning, everyone.
Thank you. And then Dr. Andrew Hughes, Program Coordinator for Adult Education. Dr. Hughes? Is Dr. Hughes with us?
Well, at least we have one representative, so that's great.
Okay, that's fine. All right, so do we have any recusals on this item?
I need to recuse myself.
Well, member Briggs, we have one recusal. Thank you. All right, would the institutional representatives like to say anything about the proposed program?
We appreciate the commission's time in taking to review this. It has been a long process for us to offer this program again. It is one that we had previously offered and that we are very looking forward to offering it again. I had hoped Dr. Hughes, the program coordinator, would have been here. I am here to represent at the unit level, but it is definitely a program. There are so few of these offered in the state that hopefully with the commission's approval, we can once again offer this.
All right, thank you. Any committee members have any questions for representative from CSU SB? All right, I don't see any. Is there a motion? Now, before we get into the motions, we want to be real specific with the motions here and be sure that it's clearly stated in its entirety. And then as we get further and further into looking at different ones that are perhaps have staff recommendations or team reports, we want to be specific that we do mention that we are accepting the team reports recommendations. And we'll talk a little bit further about details on that one. But is that this point, is there a motion to approve the CSU San Bernardino's Designated Subjects Adult Education Program? So moved by member Forbes and seconded by member Alvarado. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 All
Wait,
opposed?
we have to do a roll call vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. Thank you so much. I'm sorry. Roll call. Thank you.
Jomeline Bolatayo,
Aye.
Michael Hillis,
Aye.
Marty Martinez,
Aye.
Gerald Forbes,
Aye.
Bob Fraley,
Aye.
Anna Moore,
Aye.
Gerard Morrison,
Aye.
Jose Luis Alvarado,
Aye.
Kathy Gracia,
Aye.
Cynthia Almos,
Aye.
Katrina Chakowski.
Aye.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you. The second program proposal is from Visalia Unified School District, the Clear Administrative Services Induction. Joining us to answer any questions you may have about the proposed program is Shelley Groom, the Director of Human Resources Development Teacher, Induction, AVID District Director. Are you with us? Looks like we do not have a representative from Visalia. Cheryl, do we know if anybody is going to be present?
I think she was on earlier. I don't see her anymore, so she might not be available. Yeah. So
Do you want to postpone or just move forward?
no, I think we move forward unless
Okay,
there's
okay.
some issues that come up.
Okay. Any recusals on this item? All right. Any committee members have any comments? Unfortunately, we don't have questions for a representative since they aren't with us at this time. All right, seeing and hearing no questions, is there a motion to approve the Visalia Unified School District Clear Administrative Services Induction Program? So moved by Member Martinez, seconded by Co-Chair Moore. Will the Secretary please call the roll?
Jomeline Belatayo,
Aye.
Michael Hillis,
Aye.
Marty Martinez,
Aye.
Gerald Forbes,
Aye.
Bob Fraley,
Aye.
Hannah Moore,
Aye.
Gerard Morrison,
Aye.
Jose Luis Alvarado,
Aye.
Kathy Gracia,
Aye.
Cynthia Almos,
Aye.
Katrina Chakowski.
Aye.
Thank you.
Just, you might want to note that I'm not recusing myself of that, and my vote would be aye also.
Oh, thank you, Ira. Sorry about that.
All right, thank you all. So motion does carry. And then we have two program proposals today for approval, both from Merced County Office of Education, Preliminary Education Specialist, Mild Moderate Intern, and Moderate Severe Intern. Joining us today, answer any questions about these programs is Carla Paul, Coordinator of Credential Programs. Ms. Paul, are you with us? I'm sorry, was that a yes?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, thank you. Good. Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.
Are there any recusals? Okay, seeing none. Ms. Paul, would you like to say anything about the program proposal?
I just want to thank you at this unprecedented time. It's been a challenge, of course, getting the proposal, and now with everything that's going on, we appreciate the time. I know there's much business to be done, and we look forward to supporting new special education teachers throughout our county.
Great, thank you so much. Any community members have any questions for representative of the Merced County of Education about the proposed program? Okay, seeing no questions, is there a motion to approve the program, the Merced COA Mild, Moderate Intern, and Moderate Severe Intern programs? So moved by Committee Member Riggs, seconded by Member Balatayo. Secretary, you please call the roll.
Jose Luis Alvarado,
Aye.
Jomeline Belatayo,
Aye.
Michael Hillis,
Aye.
Marty Martinez,
Aye.
Gerald Forbes,
Aye.
Bob Fraley,
Aye.
Hannah Moore,
Aye.
Gerard Morrison, Iris Riggs,
Aye.
Kathy Gracia,
Aye.
Cynthia Almos,
Aye.
Katrina Chakowski.
Aye.
Thank you. Gerald, did you vote at all? But we didn't hear you, Alice. I didn't hear my end.
I vote aye.
Aye, okay, thank you. Michelle, did you get that?
Yes, thanks, Bob.
Okay, sure. All right, so motion carries. Thank
Bob? Oh, I'm so
Yes.
sorry. Please finish. Please finish.
Oh, no, we're done with it. We're going to move on to item 7 unless you have something to say.
I just wanted to acknowledge that Shelley Groom was able to join us. So even though you all just approved Visalia Unified School District, she is on the line, and I wanted to recognize her, especially given what we're all trying to accomplish here via technology today. I just wanted to make sure we recognize that she's with us.
Oh, thank you so much, Director Groom. Any comments you'd like to offer?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, wonderful. I'm sorry I was on my phone and could not unmute it. I'm a little weepy, I have to say. It's a program we've been working on actually for the past 2 years that will benefit about 35 of our administrators. And I also wanted to say thank you to the commission so much. I've been listening since 8:30 to all of the challenges that you're facing, and I'm on the website constantly. And we're excited about our program. We also have an induction program for our teachers. And again, I just wanted to say thank you, and also thank you for your patience with my challenge with technology, where we're all learning. So thank you again very much.
Oh, we totally understand the technology issues. Thank you so much, Director Groom, for being with us, and congratulations.
Thank you so much. Have a great meeting.
All right, thank you. All right, committee, we are on to item 7, although we do have a 9:45 time certain, and we probably want to do a stretch break. Cheryl, what are your recommendations?
Well, we also have Stella Middle Charter School first before the 9:45, and they should be on still. So we can take a quick stretch break whenever you're ready, but we do have one item before. So we have item 7 and 8 to do.
Okay, so we need to do 7 and 8 before we get up to 10, and we're okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do this. If you don't mind, let's go through 7 and 8, and then we will take a break, and then we'll start the time certains. And Cheryl, we can come back to number 9. Well, it's like number 9 we could do as well. There's nothing there.
I have a thought. We could skip 7 and do 7 a little bit later, but as long as we get to 8, because I think 8 we actually have folks joining us.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we move on to
I think Marina was on here. I'm just double checking. This is logistics, not
Marina Velez.
You are there. Okay, so we do have Stella. So this is item 8. So Bob, it's up to you. However you want to do that.
Let's do that since they're already here. Item 7 will be pretty quick, as will item 9. So we'll come back to those later.
Okay.
Let's look at item 8 then. Yep. Thank you, Cheryl. Item 8 is the initial program approval for new program sponsors, and consultant Hart Boyd will present this action item. Also with us today are Stella Middle School representatives Marina Velez, Director of Teacher Induction and Development, that we've heard from, and then also Nicole Wellman-Noble, who I saw earlier. There you are. And she is the Vice President of People Development. Stella Middle Charter Academy, Stella Middle Charter Academy is seeking approval from the COA to offer a teacher induction program. Does anyone need to recuse themselves? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Hart, would you please begin?
This item presents Stella Middle Charter Academy's responses to the teacher induction program standards for the committee consideration and possible approval, as we are in stage 4 of the initial institutional approval process. You can see this highlighted on page 2 of the item. In the previous stage, Stella Middle was granted provisional approval by the commission at the November 2019 commission meeting. As a reminder, provisional approval only authorizes an institution to offer educator preparation programs, but it is the determination of the COA which decides whether or not a specific program is approved. Please note that a link to the final submission and reviewer feedback can be found as a hyperlink in this item. Joining us today via Zoom are Marina Velez, Director of Teacher Induction and Development, and Nicole Wellman-Noble, Vice President of People Development. They will both be available to answer any programmatic questions you may have, and staff is available to answer any process questions.
Thank you, Mr. Boyd. So we now invite the institutional representatives to briefly comment on their proposed program.
Okay. Hi, Commission. Thank you so much for having us. And like other item representatives here, we've been on the call and since 9 have just really want to thank you for taking the time to thoughtfully consider everything that you've been considering today. We are planning to run a 2-year job embedded induction program. We have actually, I'm sorry, I wasn't really prepared to give the comment, but I'm wondering if there are any questions.
No worries. Any committee member have any questions? Okay, seeing none. And then Ms. Noble, did you wish to comment at all?
I don't know if there's. Is she on?
Just want to reiterate what my colleague Marina shared about our gratitude for your review of the program and Mr. Boyd's support in ushering us through this process. And we would be very excited to support teachers through the induction process through this program and support students across classrooms. So I would love the questions if folks have them, but just gratitude from our end.
All right, thank you so much. So committee members, last opportunity, any questions or discussion? All right, this is an action item. So again, we want to make sure that we make any motions to go ahead and state the motion in its entirety each time. Cheryl, would you like us to proceed with that from this point forward, or can we?
I'm sorry, what are you asking? I'm sorry. Yes, that sounded right.
Okay.
That sounded right.
Okay, so what we want to do is we want to, any committee member who wishes to make a motion, we want to ask them to state the motion in full. And if it includes accepting the team report, then we want to be certain that we state that and use that language just to be sure that we're clear, so we're consistent across the board. So with that being said, any committee member wish to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept the recommendation for this program to be accredited.
Okay, thank you. I don't, Katrina, was that you, Katrina?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. So moved by Member Tchaikovsky. Is there a second? Seconded by Member Hillis. Any further discussion? Thank you. Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Jomeline Bolatayo.
Aye.
Michael Hillis.
Aye.
Marty Martinez.
Aye.
Carol Forbes.
Aye.
Bob Fraley.
Aye.
Anna Moore.
Aye.
Gerard Morrison.
Aye.
Iris Riggs.
Aye.
Jose Luis Alvarado.
Aye.
Kathy Gracia.
Aye.
Cynthia Almos.
Aye.
Sorry, got you, Katrina. Tchaikovsky.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
You bet your smile say it all. That's very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Committee, if it's okay, item 9 will be 30 seconds. Item 9 is discussion of institutions not in compliance with accreditation timelines, and there are no late items to report at this time. So all program review and all common standard submissions were submitted on time. Bravo. That was 15 seconds. All right. Unless there are any objections, I would recommend we take a 5-minute break. Cheryl, is that acceptable? Okay, that sounds good. We'll pick up with the item 10. Item 10 is a report of the accreditation team to Keppel Union School District. We thank those who are to present waiting and being patient as we're running just a little bit behind today. Consultant Gabe Roby will introduce the item, and joining her is Institutional Representative Rob Sinclair, Induction Program Coordinator. Mr. Sinclair, are you with us?
I sure am.
There you are. Great. Thank you. And then Team Lead Carmen Mock.
Hi.
Hi. Did I say it correct? Mock or Mac?
Mock.
Mock. Right. Thank you so much for being with. Does anyone need to recuse themselves? We have one committee member, Bolatayo. All right, Ms. Roby, will you please begin?
Yes, thank you very much. Good morning, commissioners. The site visit to Keppel Union School District occurred in February from the 10th to the 12th. A team of 3 were sent to the district, as well as myself serving as the state consultant. Keppel Union School District is a very small K-8 district who is located in what we call around here the high desert instead of the low desert. They are halfway between Lancaster Palmdale community and the Victorville community. They have about 2,600 students in a very small program. The visit followed all the usual protocols except for 2 items. Due to a national convention that was very, very popular, we held 2 pre-visit interviews via technology for their IHE and greater educator collaborator community. And then secondly, just before the visit, they found they needed an extra student-free day. And so they chose the Monday we were supposed to come. So we had an altered schedule. But we got all the interviews in one day and concluded the visit on time. So at this point, I would like to turn over the microphone to for the presentation of the team's report to Carmen Mock.
Good morning, Commission. Thank you for this time. I want to start with gratitudes to Keppel Unified School District and Rob Sinclair, the induction coordinator. They were just really generous in taking care of us, and it was a really solid visit. I also want to thank the diligence and the kind of thoughtfulness of my team members, Kate Rockstead and Sarah Cloves, and thank you, Gay, for your wisdom and your guidance. In terms of the story of the visit, well, as Gay had shared, we had 1 day to do all the pieces, and even before reviewing it, we knew how small the district was, being a K-8 and with only 15 candidates this year. Our main question going in is, what is the impact of the program on teachers? And that was like all our running questions, like all their websites, all their documents seemed like they were in compliance, and it was, checking off the induction standards. And throughout even our pre-interviews with the IHEs and with advisory committee, we were getting a sense that they were very highly collaborative and that Rob was always reaching out to people. And the bingo moment, the moment that we're like, yes, this is it, is when we spoke with the candidates. And the year 1 and year 2 candidates just lit up in that room when we were asking them about induction. They lit up about Rob's leadership, how responsive he was, and about their mentors, and about inquiry and about the research. And they were just really in it. You could see that moment of like being really connected to the program. And our team was like, wow, this is it. This is like a small program really implementing the intent of the induction standards, the program standards really well. And it was so interesting because we even compared it to the completers, and the completers came in with less energy, and they were saying like, oh man, I wish I had it like what people have it this year. And it's so clear that Rob uses like the increase system and the reflection system and he models it. So he asks, okay, so what's going well? How can I take care of that? How can I problem solve? And so his mentors and his teachers see that happening, and they do it themselves. And so it's just been it was a really, really wonderful experience. So energizing to be in that room with the year 1 and year 2. And so upon that note, we found that all the program standards were all met, and in terms of the accreditation status, we have a recommendation for accreditation. And I welcome any questions.
Great, thank you, Ms. Mack, and thank you all, Toby. We now invite the institutional representative to briefly comment about the visit and remind you that it's not a time to dispute the team report, but rather provide any thoughts that you may have about the visit. So, Mr. Sinclair.
Yeah, thank you so much, and thanks to Carmen and Gay and Kate and Sarah for coming out. I just want to say that the site visits on the institution side are not always wonderful. Sometimes they're very nerve-wracking, I think. But the team did a great job to kind of calm me down, and I appreciate that. And they were very thorough and professional. So thanks to the site team and to Gay.
Thank you, Mr. Sinclair. Any comments or questions from committee members? Okay, seeing none, this is an action item. And so we're going to ask for a motion. And just to be clear on the motion again, we want to go ahead and make the comment in the motion that we're going to either accept the team report or not. But if we do accept the team report, we want to be sure that we're very clear about what it is that we're accepting. So for example, if the team, I see you, Cheryl, just a second. So if the team is going to be We want to go ahead and accept the team report. We want to mention that it's granting accreditation decision of and be very specific within there. So, Ms. Forbes, do you wish to make a motion?
I move that we accept the team's report and the recommendation of accreditation.
So moved. Is there a second? Second by committee member Riggs and quite a few others, it seems. So let's do the roll call. Secretary, please.
Jomeline Bilatayo. Jomeline Bilatayo.
Yourself, right?
I'm sorry, but I'm recusing myself.
Yeah, she was the one recusal.
Okay, thank you. Michael Hillis.
Aye.
Artie Martinez.
Aye.
Cheryl Forbes.
Aye.
Bob Fraley.
Aye.
Anna Moore.
Aye.
Gerard Morrison.
Aye.
Iris Riggs.
Aye.
Jose Luis Alvarado.
Aye.
Kathy Frazier.
Aye.
Cynthia Almos.
Aye.
Katrina Kachowski.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Congratulations, Mr. Sinclair. Sigh of relief. So I thank you very much for joining us. Also, thank you, Ms. Mock, for your work, and thank you, Ms. Roby.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move on to item 11. We have all of our Napa County of Education people here.
Yes, we do.
Okay, great. So item 11 is a discussion of the 7th year report from Napa County Office of Education to address stipulations. Consultant Roxanne Perdue will introduce the item, and joining her is institutional representative Jill Barnes, program coordinator. Any committee member need to recuse himself? We have one recusal, member Martinez.
We also have with us Lucy Edwards, the Director of Continuous Improvement in Academic Services. So joining Jill Barnes. So I just wanted to note that.
Great, thank you. And so Ms. Edwards, welcome as well. So Ms. Perdue, will you please begin?
Great. Good morning, committee members. On January 14th through 16th, back in 2019, an accreditation site visit was held at Napa County Office of Education. At the March 2019 meeting, the committee granted Napa County accreditation with stipulations and required this 7th year report that's before you today. The committee placed the following stipulations on Napa County. Within 1 year, Napa County Office of Education should provide evidence that it has established a systematic manner in which mentors are evaluated and recognized. And then number 2, that it within 1 year, Napa County Office of Education demonstrate that the unit leadership provides the institutional support required to address the needs of the teacher induction program, and that the unit systematically analyzes data to promote continuous improvement. Napa County Office of Education worked with staff throughout the year. They met with me every single month through technology to take suggestions and update me on their progress. They worked on resolving the stipulations and provided a report to staff in January of 2020 that addressed all of the stipulations as well as all of the standards that were met with concern. The report outlines the efforts taken to address these 2 stipulations and some of the evidence that was provided to staff. As you can see on the first stipulation, some of the actions taken by Napa County Office of Education are that they have established a systematic manner in which mentors are evaluated through the use of a mentor self-assessment, leading mentors to an individual goal. In addition, triannually, mentors receive individual formative feedback for growth. Formal recognition of mentors occurs annually at the end of the year in a colloquium in front of candidates, other mentors, site and district and county administrators. On the second stipulation, Napa County Office of Education has established a system of regular communication between the program leadership and unit leadership through the department director. Following each quarterly advisory board meeting, the program leadership and the director meet to review program data, board data analysis, and board recommendations for continuous growth. The director then meets with unit leadership to analyze data, share board feedback and recommendations, and collaborate on the support necessary to maintain quality of program services. Staff is recommending that the stipulations be removed and that the COA grant accreditation to Napa County Office of Education. Joining us today from Napa County Office is Jill Barnes, the Program Manager in Continuous Improvement and Academic Services, and Lucy Edwards, Director of Continuous Improvement and Academic Services. They are here to respond to any questions you may have about the steps they have taken to address the stipulations.
Great, thank you, Ms. Perdue. So welcome, Ms. Barnes and Ms. Edwards. Any comments you'd wish to offer?
Good morning. Thank you so much for your time. We really have enjoyed this process with Roxanne and all the support we've gotten from the commission in deepening our program. And we're really pleased with the advancements we've taken in mentor assessment and in tightening our system of looking at the program with data continuously, coordinating with our advisory board and our unit leadership. So we appreciate the opportunity and feel the program is much stronger for what we've been able to move forward with.
Thank you, Ms. Barnes. Ms. Edwards, any comments you wish to offer?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, the site visit as part of the accreditation process has helped us reflect on both the strengths and the areas of growth for our program, and the changes that have been implemented over the past year as part of the stipulations have really helped us create a much stronger program for our candidates and for our mentors. So I'd like to thank Jill Barnes, our program manager for induction, Roxanne for her continued support across the year and guiding us, and of course the CTC for this process too. We're a much better program because of it.
Great, thank you for your comments, Ms. Edwards, we appreciate it. At this point, any questions or comments from committee members? Okay, seeing none, this is an action item. Is there a motion? Committee Member Balatayo, will you please state your motion?
I state a motion to approve this program.
Okay, just for clarity, so within the motion, we would want to state that the motion would be to accept the team report of the removal of stipulations or from accreditation with stipulations to accreditation. So I don't want to put words into your mouth, but would you like to amend the motion?
I amend the motion and state that I'd like to remove the stipulations of this program.
Okay, so just for clarity, it sounds like you're asking that you accept the team reports and to remove the status from accreditation with stipulations to accreditation. Would that be accurate?
Yes.
Okay, so that being the motion, is there a second? Second by Member Tchaikovsky. Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Chomalene Balatayo.
Aye.
Michael Hillis.
Aye.
Carl Forbes.
Aye.
Bob Fraley.
Aye.
Anna Moore.
Aye.
Gerard Morrison.
Aye.
Harris Riggs.
Aye.
Jose Luis Alvarado.
Aye.
Kathy Cretia.
Aye.
Cynthia Amos.
Aye.
Katrina Tchaikovsky.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, motion carries. So congratulations, Ms. Edwards and Ms. Barnes. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And thank you, Ms. Perdue, for your work. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Have a good day. All right, we're moving on to item 12, although we are actually a bit early at this time. So if it's okay, can we jump back to item 7? Or would that work? Cheryl, are you with us?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that works. That's perfectly fine.
Okay. All right, committee, we're going to go back to item 7. So item 7 is the program status changes. And the item is divided into 2 parts. Part 1 includes items for action by the COA, which include request to withdraw, request to reactivate inactive programs, and then request to add a new content area to an existing program. Part 2 provides information on programs that have transitioned to revised program standards and programs that have elected to change to inactive status. These items are for notification only and require no action by the COA. Part 1, Section A, B, and C. Section A are program withdrawals. Section A is for action. There are 3 program sponsors withdrawing a total of 4 programs. California State University, Fresno, Teacher Induction, effective June 1st of 2020. California State University, Long Beach, School Nurse, effective April 1st, 2020. Also with California State University, the Reading and Literacy Leadership Specialist Credential, effective April 1st, 2020. And then the third program sponsor is California State University, San Marcos, Education Specialist Added Authorization, Autism Spectrum Disorder, and effective March 26th, 2020. This is an action item. Are there any recusals? Seeing none, is there a motion to accept the withdrawal of the programs? So moved. I saw so moved by Member Martinez. Cheryl, is it sufficient? Or would you like Member Martinez to state that completely?
No, I think that on these are fine.
Okay, thank you. So I saw so moved by Member Martinez and second by Member Cracia. Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Joe Malene Belatayo.
Aye.
Michael Hillis.
Aye.
Marty Martinez.
Aye.
Earl Forbes.
Aye.
Bob Fraley.
Aye.
Anna Moore.
Aye.
Gerard Morrison. Gerard Morrison.
We
Sorry,
can see
Jeremy,
your
can't
lips
hear
move.
you.
But yeah, the volume.
Aye.
He's got a thumbs up.
Thumbs
We'll
up.
take that then.
Okay. Iris Riggs.
Aye.
Jose Luis Alvarado.
Aye.
Kathy Gracia. Kathy Gracia.
Looks like her video froze. Kathy, can you hear us?
Kathy, if you're an I vote, you can put it in the chat as well, and we'll say it out loud.
Call it out. Okay. Cynthia Almus.
Oh, now Kathy looks like she's.
Excuse me. Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thank you. Sorry, Cynthia Almus.
Aye.
Did we get Kathy Krisha?
Aye.
Thank you, Kathy. Katrina Chakowski.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to Section B. Section B are programs requesting reactivation, and there are no programs requesting reactivation at this time. Section C, adding a new content area. There are no institutions requesting to add a new content area to an existing program. That brings us to Part 2. The next 2 sections, D and E, are for notification purposes only, and no action is required. Section D is for programs transitioning, and there are no programs requesting to transition at this time. Section E, programs moving to inactive status. This section is for notification only, no action is needed. And there is 1 program sponsor moving 1 program to inactive status, and that is California State University, Long Beach, Education Specialist Added Authorization, Autism Spectrum Disorder, effective April 1st of 2020. All right. I got my pages slightly out of order. That is, I believe that's all. Is that all for item 7, Cheryl? Did that cover it all?
I believe it is. Yes.
Okay, great. So now if we have the folks ready from Sonoma County, we can move on to item 12.
We do. I see Sarah and I see Jason. Perfect.
Great.
Oh, yes. And I
So-
think, Jason, you're doing a screen share. So at the appropriate time, let us know.
Jason, can you unmute also? You're just gonna...
Gotcha. Sorry about that.
No worries. Thank you. So item 12 is a report of the revisit team to Sonoma County Office of Education. Consultant Dr. Sarah Colombini will introduce the item. Also joining our team lead, Dr. Thomas Smith, and institutional representatives, Dr. Jason Lee, Program Director. Anyone need to recuse himself? All right, seeing none. Ms. Colombini, will you please begin?
Good morning, committee members. The Sonoma County Office of Education sponsors a teacher induction program. Designated subject credential programs, a multiple and single subject credential program, an ed specialist credential program, and an administrative services credential program. There was held on February 2nd through the 5th of this year, and the induction program, the career technical education designated subjects program, and the multiple and single subject intern programs were reviewed at this revisit. The original team members for each of the program content areas were able to join this revisit to examine the way the institution addressed each stipulation in relationship to the program and common standards where appropriate. Over the past year, Jason Lee has been working diligently with his staff to address the stipulations that were assigned to the institution at the May 2019 meeting. After the accreditation site team left in March of last year, Jason and his team immediately began the work to bring the specific programs in alignment with standards. Some of the work was a large lift, as you will hear from Jason himself. But first, I would like to let Dr. Smith, the team lead for the site visit and revisit, share the report and recommendations of the team based on their findings. Dr. Smith?
Thank you, Ms. Colabini. If I could interrupt for just a minute, and we do have one recusal after all this.
Oh.
And
I recuse myself.
Yeah, so we have one recusal, co-chair Moore. So sorry. All right, please continue.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. I first just want to quickly thank the team members who did the revisit, Mary Dolan, Barbara Howard, and Bridget Mont. They all brought a level of detail and seriousness to the review of documents and the interviews that really helped us analyze all of the detail during the revisit. I want to thank Jason and the Sonoma County Office of Education for hosting and being readily available to respond to all of our requests, even in the minute as things were coming up. We got all of our questions answered during the visit, and we're able to complete all of the interviews that we needed. I'd just like to highlight that the institution really jumped in and made some serious strides in addressing the stipulations. The areas that the team still identified as not being aligned to standards are really ones that are taking longer, and you'd expect to take longer than just 1 year to implement. Things such as implementing a vision and getting everybody on board with that vision, as well as not just designing a continuous improvement process, but implementing it and having data from it that's being used for improvement. The team saw evidence that the institution is moving in the right direction, and that it'll just need more time to implement so that there's proof for why the team made the recommendation that it did. So then I'll move on to the recommendation. The revisit team recommended that stipulations 1, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 from the 2019 accreditation visit be removed. That stipulations 2, 3, 4, and 6 remain. I'd be happy to step through those with you, but I know that you all have the document and can raise any questions about it if you wish. We also recommend that the Sonoma County Office of Education submit a course matrix in March 2021 for designated subjects, career technical education programs, that documents the alignment of the preliminary coursework to the Category 2 program standards 8 through 16. That was something that wasn't available for the visit, but that we think is important that they document. The Sonoma COE, we also recommend that Sonoma COE submit a report addressing the progress achieved toward addressing stipulations 2, 3, and 6 in March 2021. And our final recommendation is that the accreditation decision for the Sonoma County Office of Education be changed from accreditation with probationary stipulations to accreditation with stipulations.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. Now invite the institutional representatives to briefly comment about the visit. We remind you this is not a time to dispute the team report, but rather provide any information or thoughts that you had about the visit.
All right, thank you very much to the commission. I come to you live from my wife's makeup table. She's zooming in with her 6th grade class right now, and I have 2 college students also online, so my bandwidth is being tested both psychologically and literally. So I really enjoyed the visit, and I've shared with the commission in person on 2 occasions that this couldn't have been better timed for me as someone who was coming in as a new executive director of a program. It really kind of rattled some cages and changed some things that just had been, this is how we do things. And it's really kind of brought us together as a team to really kind of be thought partners and look at continuous improvement, not just in individual programs, but across a unit. So I just have a couple of things I want to share, and I will do that be sharing my screen and their screenshots. So I will try to be quick here when I do this. The first one is actually dealing with satellite programs, which is one of the stipulations that's going to remain. And so just to let the commission know that our Santa Cruz satellite will be just wrapping up with those year 2 candidates as interns. We'll be finishing this year, and we'll be discontinuing that satellite program. They'll be going with Cal State Monterey Bay in the future, which makes sense to me. Having a university partner that is geographically located near the people you're serving in your community makes way more sense. Lake County satellite, which is actually a Lake and Mendo satellite program, will be continuing. Lake County's also in the process of applying to establish their own intern program. And they'll be remaining with us until that approval comes through. But we've really been working closely since last May with Lake and Mendocino County Satellite to make sure that they're offering the program as it was approved by the commission. And I think that some of that's been some of the issue around the accreditation concerns that the team found, and really getting them to commit to working closely with us is really going to improve things. And I've explained to them that not only is that going to be good for our program because we were approved a certain way and we have certain things that we need to require our candidates and our practicum supervisors and our faculty to do, it's going to help them get some things in order when they have their own program. So I'm going to share this. I just have after having a meeting with Brock Falkenberger, who's the county superintendent of Lake County, he shared, I have an email just to share with the commission here. And so wish me luck as I share my screen. And then I'll try to get through these items really quickly so you can see all the items, so I don't have to bounce back and forth. Can you guys see my screen okay? Yes.
Yes, we
So
can.
this is just an email from Brock that Brock Falkenberg, who's the county sup, just letting the commission know that they are committed to working with us and making sure that they're providing the high quality, relevant, accessible credentialing coursework and program in line with what our program was initially approved as. And so this involves some staff changes that they're going to make and a commitment on both sides to really make sure that we are connecting regularly, not just virtually. Well, everything's virtual now, but in person as we move forward to ensure that their candidates are meeting all the program requirements, as are their practicum supervisors and their faculty. So I'm going to close that. The next one, I don't know, my screen's not sharing anymore, but the next one I'll go over quickly is our continuous improvement model, and I'll see if I can share again here. We've been working to ensure that unit-wide we are looking at continuous improvement and model that continuous improvement in a way that's going to be effective in our growth and what we're doing to meet the needs of our programs, our participants, and the standards set out by the commission. So what you see here is something we've developed since even just our March revisit or February revisit. And this is just a model, a graphic that illustrates our data collection across units. And you can see that, we've identified different periods of time that these different data pieces will be collected. These are common across all programs we offer. And this is kind of the cycle where unit leads and faculty will review this data. And this will be an annual process. And each program has also identified their own timeline so that when they have their individual advisory boards, they can share how we're doing this across a unit and how we are doing this in each individual program. And this, again, is going to take some time to make sure that this becomes part of our institutional practice. And lastly, and it stopped sharing again, but give me 1 second. Our theoretical framework, and this is, again, even some of the commission members had mentioned previously in person, previous meetings, that this would be something that's going to take probably the longest bit of time to implement across our unit and our programs. So this is the graphic that we have created, and it's even changed since Dr. Smith and Sarah and the other team members came for the revisit, because again, this is something that we're really trying to kind of embed across all of our programs. And as we involve more stakeholders and our faculty and really look at and try to answer some of the questions that came from the revisit team, we are working to make sure that we're doing it the right way. And so it's something that's not just, there to check a box, but really part of what we do is part of the continuous improvement that we're implementing in our program. So again, thank you so much for the visit team, and it's been great learning, and it's really pushed us in a direction to ensure that we're really improving our programs for our candidates and providing the best teachers and the best professional learning to support the students in our county and region. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. We appreciate you sharing the information with us.
I'm not a doctor. I just play one.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Lee. Let's see. Any questions or comments at all from committee members? With Committee Member Tchaikovsky, and then Committee Member Riggs.
Yeah, hello. Hello again from afar. I'm kind of just interested in that conceptual framework diagram that you just showed us. And I noticed you have understanding by design as the primary model that's informing your general ed and ed specialist teacher preparation. And I just wonder, is there any kind of like a larger umbrella that synthesizes all of those mentoring components, or are they all really specific to particular stakeholder groups?
Jason, you're muted.
Yeah, Mr. Lee, you're muted.
Gotcha. Yeah, sorry. We actually are looking, so we're creating, and I could probably pull this up on my computer, but we're creating a kind of a unit-wide mentoring framework, which is really grounded in not just these individual theories, but also in kind of adult learning theory across the board. The work we've been doing around mentoring is because in all of our programs, we have mentors, whether it's AIP or our PASC preliminary program, teacher induction, all we have mentors. And so we're working to really kind of tie all of this together through kind of a mentoring framework that's based on adult learning theory. So that's kind of the overarching piece. And I share this particular one because that's kind of what we presented at the revisit. And the team was asking more kind of specific unit pieces. But that connection unit wide is coming through what we're creating as our mentor framework across programs.
Thank you.
And if I could just follow up on that, one thing that I found helpful in our program, at least, was to, you can try to invent all these things, obviously, or we can say, hey, there might be a framework out there of mentoring that could map onto your district's local context and work for you as a kind of common reference. I mean, for us, we use Elena Aguilar's materials, but there's obviously a lot of different ones out there. So I just wondered if you had considered something like that.
We are actually going through, we have staff that are actually going through Elena, once we get back to normal, if and when, going through the Elena Aguilar training. That's what kind of the book we've been using to kind of make connection across programs, that exact framework.
All right, thank you. Member Riggs.
I just wanted to say that I it warmed my heart actually to read the report and to hear you speak just now today about unit-wide thinking. And when you've got multiple programs as you do, it's so difficult to bring those together in your unit. And it just sounds like you're doing that. And also the report made it clear that the interviewees were very frank about the things that still remain to be done. And it just seemed very authentic that this kind of change takes time. And I appreciate the self-evaluation that you all did to come to this point and say, hey, this is where we are and this is where we're still going. So it was wonderful to read. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Riggs. Anyone else have any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, this is an action item. Do I have a motion? And before we do the motion, I would just ask the committee members to refer to the report of the revisit, since it is a fairly complicated motion. So if we can just start there. Are there any committee members who have or any member wants to make a motion? All right, Member Morrison, go for it.
That we accept the team report and change accreditation with probationary stipulations to accreditation with stipulations.
Okay, and Cheryl, does that work?
Yes,
rather
that
than
does.
reading it. Okay, great. Thank
Yes,
you.
so accepting the team report with the stipulations in removal of the stipulations there and going from probationary stipulation to accreditation with stipulations, I assume remaining exactly as the team is recommending.
Member Morrison, would that be accurate? Okay, so the motion is on the table. Is there a second? Second by Member Forbes. Any further discussion? Thank you. Secretary, please call the roll.
Joe Malene Bolatayo,
Aye.
Michael Hill,
Aye.
Marty Martinez,
Aye.
Carol Forbes,
Aye.
Paul Fraley,
Aye.
Gerard Morrison,
Aye.
Iris Riggs,
Aye.
Jose Luis Alvarado,
Aye.
Kathy Grisha,
Aye.
Cynthia Amos,
Aye.
Katrina Chakowski.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Motion carries. Congratulations, Mr. Lee.
Thank you all very much, and to everybody out there at the commission and out in the virtual locations. Take care of yourselves, your families, and try to remain sane.
Thank you so much. And also thank you, Dr. Smith, and thank you, Columbine. We appreciate your efforts. We are moving on to 10:45. Do we have the team from San Jose State University present?
Yes, we do. This is Katie Croy.
Excellent. Hi, Dr. Croy.
Hey, how are y'all?
We're doing okay. So committee, we're going to move on to item 13, which is the report of the accreditation team to San Jose State University. And consultants Dr. Katie Croy and Dr. Kara Mendoza will introduce the item. Also joining her are team lead Dr. Thomas Smith and institutional representatives Dr. Heather Latimer, Dean. Dr. Latimer, are you with us?
I am.
Great, welcome. And then we have Dr. Marcos Pizarro, the Associate Dean. Dr. Pizarro.
Yep, glad to be here.
Great, welcome. And we have Isabel Vallejo, who is the Director of Assessment and Accreditation. Are you with us,
Yes,
Isabel?
I'm here.
Okay,
Yes,
great.
I'm here.
Thank you so much. Does anyone need to recuse themselves? Seeing none, Dr. Croy, would you please begin?
Gladly. Well, first of all, the visit was conducted on February 23rd through the 26th with no special situations occurring. We had 9 amazing team members and 2 consultants, plus Dr. Smith as our extremely dedicated team lead. In fact, he had been appointed to a new position just a few weeks before he had to take over this visit. And so I really appreciate Dr. Smith continuing to accept that challenge along with all of the new challenges that were offered to him through his institution. So a special thank you for keeping with us on that. Kara, Dr. Mendoza and I met with Isabel and her team every month during the year prior to the visit. And some months we met weekly and some weeks we met daily. It was a large institution, and they wanted to ensure that everything was ready when the team arrived, and it certainly was. The review of the 18 programs kept the team on their toes during those days that we were there, but the team was accepted the challenge and was very thorough in their review. They conducted more than 800 interviews at that time, and a special thank you to Isabel for her dedication to this process. Whenever the team requested additional documentation, the campus responded immediately with necessary information with no questions asked. A special thank you to Kira, too, for all of her hard work, because she really was the glue that helped fill in all the cracks and keep everything going smoothly. So thank you, Kira. I couldn't have done it without you. And at this time, I'd like to turn the report over to Dr. Smith, who will share the work of the team and the team's accreditation recommendation.
Thank you, Katie. I just wanted to highlight a few of the strengths of the visit. We found the leadership team and the faculty to be incredibly dedicated. The candidates stated that the faculty were always available to assist them. We appreciate the importance that San Jose State placed on cooperative work across all of the units with programs. It's always complicated to both review and, I am sure, run accreditation programs that are spread across schools and colleges. And the level of coordination across those programs was really notable throughout the visit. They're making our lives easier in the review. The website was excellent in its organization and easy for team members to find the available information. I wanted to note that employers and master teachers stated that the candidates were always well prepared and ready to meet the needs of students. In my conversations with employers, I was really struck with how they found San Jose State to be the go-to place for candidates, and also found that the institution was incredibly responsive whenever there was any feedback or challenges with any aspects of the programs. To kind of dive into the report itself, regarding the program standards, all program standards were met, with the exception of the following, which were met with concerns: education specialist, moderate, severe, program standard 8, education specialist, mild, moderate, moderate, severe, and early childhood education, program standard 15, and the adapted physical education program, standard 8. For the common standards, all common standards were met, with the exception of common standard 4, continuous improvement, which was met with concerns. The overall recommendation was based on the fact that the team found that all standards for all programs are met, with the exception of the 2 standards for the Ed Specialist program that I just mentioned, and the one for the adaptive physical education program, and related to Common Standard 4. I'm happy to go into any of the details in the report, particularly related to the content standards, but I wanted to just kind of get to the chase, and that the team unanimously recommended accreditation with a 7th year report to highlight how the concerns were addressed. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. We now like to invite the institutional representatives to briefly comment about the visit. We remind you not of time to dispute the team report, but rather provide any thoughts that you may have about the visit itself.
Great, thank you. So this is Heather Latimer. I'm the Dean at San Jose State, and I really want to voice my appreciation for the team, both from the beginning of the visit before they arrived on campus to when they arrived on campus, really value the insights, questions, thoughtful questions, and contributions that they made throughout the process. It was less than a month ago. Actually, I guess it was just a month ago. It seems like a lifetime ago because the last 4 weeks have been insane for all of us, I'm sure. But in that time, one of the things we have already had conversations for areas that were areas of concerns, and our special education department and our adaptive PE program both have a plan in place to address those, and we are confident that we'll be able to have a 7th-year report with that addresses those fully. The area around assessment was really basically saying we need to continue on that path, and we're excited to do that. This is now my 2nd year. It's Marcos's a 2nd year just started. He arrived as the associate dean in January 2019, and Isabel arrived at the same time. So relatively new leadership team, although obviously San Jose State as a program has been around for a long, long time. We put into place that assessment program just this year. And I think one of the things that we're excited about there is that it's received a lot of traction. It was co-created, so it's not something that was being imposed from the top down, but was co-created by all the participants across our programs. And so there's a lot of buy-in, and I think that comes across in the report. The last thing I'll just say is that again, voicing my appreciation for the questions and the thoughtfulness of the work that the team did. It allowed us to really lean into the strategic plan that we just adopted as a college in January, which says that we're all about preparing transformative educators, counselors, therapists, school and community leaders using an emancipatory approach across all of our practices. It voices 4 core areas for our work that demonstrates both the work that we've done and the work that we are aspiring to further develop. Those 4 areas are being community engaged, being interdisciplinary, having a culturally sustaining approach, and having a holistic approach across all of our programs and in our support for our students, faculty, staff, and community. And I think that having the team come when they did really allowed us as a group to solidify that vision across all of our programs. So thank you very much to Dr. Croy, Dr. Mendoza, Dr. Smith, and all the people who participated in that.
Thank you, Dr. Latimer. Any other member of the institution wish to make a comment? Okay, seeing none. Any questions or comments from committee members for any of the consultants, the team lead, or any of the institutional representatives? Member Forbes.
Well, first of all, I would just like to acknowledge the institution for making such big changes in a really pretty short amount of time. And sometimes when we see leadership changes taking place at an institution, it might be a sign that they're going to need a little more support. But after reading through this team report, which I also wanted to acknowledge, I found very comprehensive, but yet readable for such a large institution with so many programs, and we appreciate that. I really feel confident moving forward that you're going to you've already made a lot of changes, and I look forward to that 7th year report to learn what you've done since then.
Thank you, Member Forbes. Any other committee member wish to make a comment or question? All right, seeing none, this is an action item. Again, I will refer you to the team report when making the motion. So is there a motion? Committee Member Alvarado, what would your motion be?
So the motion would be to accept the team's report and the recommendation for accreditation with a 7th year revisit.
Okay, so moved.
Report, not a revisit, right? Just want to clarify. That's a
report.
That's accreditation. You're correct.
Okay, great.
So just to clarify, it'd be to accept the team recommendation of accreditation with the 7th year report to follow. Would that be accurate?
That's correct.
All right, thank you, Member Alvarado. Is there a second? So moved by Co-Chair Moore. All in favor, please say aye. I'm sorry, we have the roll call. Secretary, please call the roll.
Jomeline Bilatayo.
Aye.
Mike Hillis,
Aye.
Marty Martinez,
Aye.
Ralph Forbes,
Aye.
Bob Fraley,
Aye.
Anna Moore,
Aye.
Gerard Morrison,
Aye.
Iris Riggs,
Aye.
Jose Luis Alvarado,
Aye.
Kathy Krisha,
Aye.
Cynthia Almos,
Aye.
Tina Chakowski.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you all.
Great. And thank you for your work also, Dr. Smith, Dr. Corey, and Dr. Mendoza.
Always a pleasure.
All right. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
All right. We're now going to move on to item 14, the accreditation team to Merced. Do we have representatives and all bodies present for Merced?
I believe so.
Yes, we do.
Great.
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Excellent. All right. So item 14 is the report of the accreditation team to Merced Union High School District. Consultant Dr. Sarah Colombini will introduce the item, and joining her are institutional representative Maria Carrillo, the new teacher induction coordinator. Are you here?
Marcia Carrillo, yes.
There you are. Thank you for joining us. And also team lead Lori Goldstein.
Yes, I'm here. Good morning.
All right. Good morning. Thank you. Dr. Colombini, would you please begin?
Certainly. So the Merced Union High School District sponsors a teacher induction program. The site visit was held February 10th through the 12th of this year. The program was reviewed. As part of the accreditation cycle and in preparation for the site visit, consultation with the program and the team lead occurred several times prior to the visit. The visit was conducted by the team lead, Lori Goldstein, and two team members, Beth Bythrow and Renee Rubio. Before handing this over to our team lead, Lori Goldstein, I would like to appreciate the hospitality of the Merced Union High School District induction staff during this visit. The team was able to completely focus on interviews, review documentation, and collect evidence because of their preparations for this site visit. I am confident that this review resulted in a thorough review of the program. So thank you to Marcia Carrillo and the entire Merced Union High School District induction team for a productive site visit. It is now Lori Goldstein's responsibility to share the report and the recommendation based upon the team findings.
Thank you, Sarah.
Good morning, members of the COA. It's nice to virtually see everybody looking well at this point, and I'm honored to share the report and our findings as the team recommends for accreditation for the Merced Union High School District. I'd like to echo Sarah's commendations to the institution for being really prepared in advance, very organized in terms of their website and the availability of the documentation to the team members prior to the site visit, which made for really, for lack of a better term, smooth sailing once we got there to sort of triangulate all of that documentation and data with the physical interviews that took place. As well, I'd like to thank the team members who worked diligently together and well together to produce the report that you have, and really just kind of dig into those common and program standards during the site visit with all the stakeholders present. It was really obvious, and I'm sure that you've read in the report this as well, that this institution is very invested in both retaining their teachers and the success of their teachers, and that came through with every interview that we had with the program participants, as well as all stakeholders at the highest levels, all the way down to the program completers who remarkably wanted more, which we don't often hear, I think, from induction candidates that finish the program, but it was really obvious that even the completers who remained in touch with the full-time release mentors after the fact valued the program and wanted more of it, even though they had received their clear credentials. So that was a nice thing to hear during the interviews. So without further detail that you do have in the report, the unanimous recommendation by the team members for the Merced Union High School District is based on all common and program standards being met and the preconditions being aligned. And that is our recommendation for the committee.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And then any comments of institutional representatives? Any further comments?
By myself?
Yes. Yeah, we have any opportunity that you wish to speak about? Yes.
I just wanted to let the commission know that we appreciate the process. It allows us to gather information about our program so that we can continue to offer a quality program and reflect and analyze what we're doing to make sure we're meeting the needs of our teachers. So we appreciated the process and the professionalism very much. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Carrillo. This is an action item, but before we do that, any questions or comments from committee members? Okay, seeing none, this is an action item referring back to our information from the team report. Any committee member wish to make a motion? Member Tchaikovsky.
I move that we accept the report and the recommendation for accreditation.
Okay, so moved. Is there a second? Second by committee member Martinez. Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Jomaline Balatayo.
Aye.
Nick Hillis.
Aye.
Marty Martinez.
Aye.
Cheryl Forbes.
Aye.
Bob Fraley.
Aye.
Anna Moore.
Aye.
Gerard Morrison.
Aye.
Iris Riggs.
Aye.
Jose Luis Alvarado.
Aye.
Kathy Krisha.
Aye.
Cynthia Amos.
Aye.
Katrina Chikowski.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, motion carries. Congratulations, Ms. Carrillo.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you also to Ms. Goldstein. Thank you for your work. And thank you, Dr. Colombini, for your work as always.
All right.
We are moving on to Cheryl. We are ahead of schedule.
We're ahead of schedule. So we were thinking, I know I see Jake on here. Jake, can you unmute for a moment? And I don't see the institution. So we might need to take a little 10-minute break. I did tell them to be on 15 minutes early, so they should be on at 11:15.
Okay, so looking through our schedule, we have item 14, item 15, and then we have a lunch break. Is there
Could
any?
we do item 22 maybe? I don't know if Terry's available.
I was going to ask if we want to move that to the morning, unless she has some other.
We certainly can. We can move. I think it's Miranda, Poonam, and Terry. Let's see. I think they're probably all on. Yeah, there's Miranda. And okay, we can do 22 if you want to do that.
Okay, so members, if we did that, then we can be sure that we break in time for lunch and then have the full hour probably for our lunchtime.
Mm-hmm.
That works. Okay, great. So looking at item 22, it's a discussion of proposed changes in language for the initial program review preconditions. It's an information item, and Director Terry Clark, Consultant Miranda Gutierrez, and Assistant Consultant Poonam Bedi will present this item.
Good morning. This item came together very quickly after the January commission meeting. Staff had been thinking about this topic, but it came very clear during some public comment related to initial institutional approval. And the public comment had to do with the idea that the current demonstration of need precondition wasn't overly specific and that there wasn't necessarily a very high bar that was set. We provide for you the current language at the bottom of page 1 and the top of page 2. There are 2 preconditions that apply only to new program proposals. So these are used when an entity is in the initial institutional approval process, which is why Poonam is with us. It's also used when institutions that are already approved as an institution are going through the IPR process to suggest a new program, which is why Miranda's with us. These 2 preconditions, the first one says, there has to be some sort of a need. There's not very much specificity around that need, and how it is usually met is 1 or 2 letters from an associate superintendent saying, we would be interested in hiring completers of this program if there was a program. So not a super high bar. The second of the 2 initial program preconditions says that practitioners need to participate in the design of the program. Again, there's not a lot of specificity around how they participate. And the way we normally see evidence of this is there's some sort of a submission that says Associate Soup so-and-so or Induction Director so-and-so has participated in the planning. And then there's maybe even an agenda that says that, and a sign-in sheet that says they participated. It's still pretty low bar. Some of the things we've also noticed as staff, independent of the January commission meeting, is when we're out on site visits, one of the areas that program institutions often have a lot of challenge showing that they're meeting is how well the K-12 community is in partnership with the university, the higher ed community. We notice this at university and college visits, where they say, yeah, they participate, but it's not always very obvious. And so what we were thinking as staff is if these two initial program preconditions were possibly made a little more authentic, a little more of a higher bar for the entity, all entities, to get across as they develop their program, maybe it would encourage ongoing participation by the practitioner world. So what we have is some possible language on the bottom of page 2 where it starts for the demonstration of need, and it's much more specific if you'll notice. The program proposal must include a demonstration of need for the program in the region in which it will operate. Such a demonstration would include data on the number of individuals serving on less than full credentials in the region of the proposed program, and affirmations from employers in the region that they would anticipate hiring people from this credential category. Until the last 2 years, when the Commission's data dashboard started appearing, it would have been very hard for institutions to gather this data possibly. But now that the dashboards actually show how many people are on intern documents, how many people are on STIPs, how many people are on PIPs, on the public dashboard, they can either pull up their county. If it's a university, they could go to their county. They could pick selected counties around their area. They could provide data in a table that says, our data shows for the past 5 years. Over the past 5 years, for this specific type of program, there's been this amount of need. This seems like a more authentic demonstration of need than just we would hire a completer if you have this program. We would still maintain that other part, the affirmation to be interested in hiring, but it does make this more of a data-driven situation. In the area of the second precondition, the participation in program design, we're actually suggesting that it become program design and implementation. And to be a little bit more specific, that the program proposal must include verification that employers and K-12 practitioners. Sometimes we get one or the other. The employers would be the administration in the district, but the K-12 practitioners are the people who have that type of credential. So by putting both employers and practitioners, we're saying someone from the HR or an administrator, and the practitioner side is we're saying, and a school site administrator for an admin program, and a mentor for an induction program. A teacher for a preliminary preparation program. We're saying that both employers and practitioners should be involved in, and we're a little more specific, the design of the program. They'll be involved in the implementation of the program and are committed to the implementation and continuous improvement of the program. This is what happens, what we're not seeing related to Common Standard 3 and Common Standards 2 and 3 and 4 actually. In the ongoing evaluation, the continuous improvement model for Common Standard 4, in Common Standard 1, the active involvement in decision making by the K-12 community, and in the field work and clinical practice. Because you are our experts and you represent both the K-12 world and the higher ed world, we wanted to bring this language to you to have a conversation. Our original plan was to try to take it forward to the April Commission meeting. There may not be a lot of space in the April Commission meeting, so we may be doing this a little bit later, but we're really interested in your comments and feedback on this type of modification to these two preconditions. These are long-standing preconditions. They've been kind of reorganized and put into a little different bucket. They were one of the 10 general preconditions a long time ago, but now they are in their own category of initial program preconditions. So Miranda's here if there's questions on how prospective programs at long-standing institutions have addressed these. Poonam is here for information on how prospective institutions in the IIA process have addressed these. And we're really looking for a conversation among you to say, does this seem like a good direction to be going? We're happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Ms. Clark. We see we have a couple hands for questions. Committee Member Alvarado, you're first.
So the preconditions apply to both regionally accredited institutions and districts and county offices. And so I know that there's the need for non-university based programs to engage with institutions of higher ed. Have you looked at that language to make sure that it's also as robust in the requirement for engagement? Because I know that in previous instances we've seen, well, we've engaged and it really was just like a couple of emails or conversations in professional conferences, not really a formal engagement, kind of like what we're talking about here.
I think you raise a really important point. That is very true. And maybe your direction to staff could be to go back and think about this a little more and try to figure out how to have some authentic language related to LEA-based programs engaging with higher ed institutions. Part of the challenge and part of the reason we've proposed what we have in this item is that no matter who the program sponsor is, the end product is going to be someone who is hired by an LEA and someone who is a practitioner in the K-12 world. So it seems like it is absolutely essential that no matter who the sponsor is, there has to be some input and some authenticity from the K-12 employing, practicing world. Some of our induction programs, which is what a lot of the LEAs do sponsor, they have reported that it's actually fairly challenging to reach back into the preliminary world in the higher ed. We actually have had a number of induction programs who've contacted different institutions, and I know at least one of them has been a CSU where the answer has been, we don't have time to participate in that right now. But let us, definitely we've written it down, we'll definitely think about it, and you can talk a little more and give us some more ideas of how we might make this a more authentic higher ed to LEA collaboration, especially when it is only second tier preparation.
Thank you. And I know, Gerard, you had a question as well. Katrina, did you want to comment on this thread?
Yeah, I did. I just wanted to say I appreciate that verb and implement the program in collaboration with K-12 representatives. I think having that word in there, it marks a significant revision in a positive direction that's going to engender collaboration. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Member Morrison, is yours along the same line, or is this going to be a new thread? Just so anybody else want to comment on what Jose Luis Alvarado had raised? All right, if not, Committee Member Morrison.
Mine's talking about the new language, which I think is good. As a K-12 practitioner, I'm interested in seeing the input of teachers. Often when we talk about,
it's really difficult to hear you.
Yeah.
Do you think it's because of the headphones? Yeah, I don't. Is everybody else having a hard time hearing too?
Yes, Gerard, we're wondering, any chance it might be better without the headphones? We don't know. It's.
You know what? I'll just put my comments in the chat. Can I do that?
Actually, better.
Sure.
We can hear you for that last little part, that you'll just put your comments in the chat. So if you could speak a little louder, it might work.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Much better.
Oh, good. Just continuing, I was saying, as a K-12 practitioner, I think that the new language, from that perspective, is excellent. I think sometimes when we talk about the world of K-12. We're getting input from principals, teachers are out of the classroom, and if this language means practicing teachers, which I hope it does, and I think it does, then I think that's a great step forward.
Okay. Thank you, Member Morrison. Any other committee member wish to make a comment or question? Co-Chair Moore.
I just wanted to agree. I really appreciate the time you took to address this issue. I know when I've written programs before and I get to that precondition, I'm like, what kind of evidence can I gather? Who do I go to? And this really helps. So thank you.
Thanks, Co-Chair Moore. We also have a comment from Member Riggs saying she agrees with the comments thus far, and also ditto from Committee Member Forbes to what Iris said as well. Any other comments?
Co-Chair Frelly, could I ask a question? Of our LEA-focused people on the committee, so Anna, Marty, you run programs. Help us think a little bit. Mm-hmm. What would be an authentic and appropriate way for Sacramento County or things, what would be inappropriate to reach back into the higher ed world? How do we get some parallel language to address Jose Luis's comment? Do you have any suggestions for me?
Can I ask a clarifying question, Terry? When you talk about reaching back, are you can you clarify what you mean by us reaching back into the IHE world? Are you saying that there be stipulations or recommendations on their side that would require that collaboration and in terms of developing a new program and then implementing it?
Yes, and what the preconditions do is they set criteria out, and historically when preparation was all in the higher ed world, this precondition I think existed to help the preparation align with what the K-12 world needs as far as employees and teachers and service providers. And we have tried to always be absolutely neutral no matter what type of sponsor it is. And so we're saying IHEs have to play with LEAs, and we're saying that IHEs, we're not always seeing an authentic collaboration with the K-12 world. So I think what Jose Luis is asking us to think about also is how do we ensure an authentic collaboration between local education agencies, which are the employers and the people doing the teaching and the serving. But our IHE world, they have a lot of people with a lot of research knowledge, a lot of best practice information. How do we help LEAs realize that reaching into the IHE world, the four-year institution, could also be very helpful and keep all programs from becoming too insular? The other thing we see sometimes on accreditation site visits is everyone on the advisory board, although they may be a practitioner now, they all completed the program at that institution. They also serve as adjunct at that institution. It becomes very internal facing rather than taking ideas from a wide range of stakeholders. So how do we help LEAs get an authentic partnership with the IHE world, and how do we help IHEs understand that devoting some time to that could actually be really helpful?
Thank you for clarifying that. And I'd say that is a challenge for us as an LEA to get partnerships from the universities. And I think we operate, or we have, in silos. So sometimes it's a lot of work. And so I think the language, if we could put it on both sides of the preconditions and with examples, maybe I liked, I think there was a table that you recommended of really describing who participated and how, etc. For us, having that language in there, because it is easy to become insular if you don't really do the footwork required to get true collaboration from LEAs, from practicing teachers, from practicing administrators, and from the IHE. It takes a lot of work, and so I think somehow if we could put language in that helps us recognize all of those kind of the structural pieces that will help create that, so it's not just when we're getting ready to write a new program or implement a new program, but through the advisory committees, through the like we have regional collaboration networks that include our IHEs and LEAs and other organizations that keep that collaboration open. So when we need that collaboration, that input from each of the types of institutions, that it's there. I didn't really give you any recommendations in terms of language, but if we can consider how we support the system in doing that, I'd love to hear from some of our IHE colleagues as well. Thank you.
Thank you. We do have a lot of questions at this point, so we'll start with Member Riggs. You're first.
I just wanted to offer that our institution has been a partner in partnership with our county offices since really 1989, if not before. That's when I was aware of it. And we partner with the consortium on induction. We've partnered on intern programs in the past, and now we're partnering on pursuit of recruitment program for people of color. And it concerns me when I hear that IHEs might say we don't have time for that, because it's mutually beneficial if someone can help everyone understand that by doing this partnership, we all have advisory groups. And perhaps just the way our counties have included us and the way we've included them has just been so great. Because, for example, when our counties pull together the different school agencies in the county to have communication with them, we have IHE representatives at those meetings. So we get access to school representatives in a way that supplements the advisory boards that we have that we establish ourselves. And so it's just, I'm glad to see the language of this changing, and it should be on both sides, and it really is a benefit to both sides. So maybe you can sell that to IHEs by saying, there's a benefit for us here. And just as a very specific benefit I might mention is when we hear the data from our induction programs about the strengths and needs of new teachers, that is direct feedback to our programs and helps us with changes that we need to make.
Thank you, Member Riggs. Member Tchaikovsky.
Yeah, I think a lot of what Iris just said is what I was going to toss out there, especially in terms of the role of the County Office of Education. In San Diego, the people, Carrie and others at the San Diego County Office of Education, have been instrumental in organizing regional meetings on a regular basis involving LEAs and IHEs in our area. So that's where I met people from San Diego State. Cheryl goes to those, et cetera. So I'd say, the county is positioned to connect us, and it's kind of part of their charge. So maybe explicitly calling out. I also just wanted to say that what Iris said about mutual benefit is also really important. I would say if there's any language that could be added about how and why LEAs and IHEs must collaborate on behalf of credential students or on behalf of candidates, and then explore how collaboration will actually help those people, those future teachers. That's important. I mean, we shouldn't just be getting together to be on advisory boards just to be in the same airspace. We should be getting together to problem solve and develop strategies that diversify, support, and expand the talent pool of future teachers in our state. So I've become way closer as an LEA in Sweetwater with all of our regional teacher preparation programs through teacher residency. Residency in 1 year has done more to connect us than anything that we've done 3 years prior to that. So in thinking about how and why residency has served as the catalyst for this connectivity in our area, I think it's because it's on a individual by individual consideration. We're all thinking, how and why do I need to talk to the people at Point Loma about this particular student? Like, it's all about gathering around these individuals in order to help them succeed. So if there's any way that justifying language should address how and why collaboration helps individual students toward, California's goals for the future, I think that might be helpful.
Thank you, Member Tchaikovsky. Good point. Co-Chair Moore.
That was well stated, and I totally agree. Thank you for saying that. And to concur with some of the other things that have been said, just to reiterate and know that you have a lot of us thinking the same thing, Terry. I know that when I was in Monterey, the CSUMB had an advisory board that had quite a few members from the LEA community on it. And we were so happy to be there. A lot of great conversations had. But as a director, I've also felt like I've struggled getting the IHEs to attend and collaborate. Again, for maybe they just say they're too busy. They get their names on the advisory board, but we have a hard time getting them to the table. So maybe if the people at the higher levels at the IHE can provide these folks with permission to take the time to collaborate and be part of these advisory boards and these conversations. We just need to get everybody on board. It's reminiscent of the time when we're still trying to get them to give us that bridging document in some of our communities from the IHE to the LEA. And anyways, thank you.
Great. Thank you all for the very enlivening and discussion and great comments. And Terry, that it looks like that gives you some information to move forward with.
That's been very helpful. We'll easily be able to move forward. Sonoma, Miranda, did you have any other questions or suggestions?
And I think there's two. Iris still has a question.
Iris, is yours a new question? Sorry.
It's not a new question. It's a comment just about motivating IHEs. I will just say that sometimes, and I know this isn't always possible, but since 1992, we have had as many as 2 to 6 faculty involved in induction. And so pulling people in some kind of role besides just sitting on the advisory group can be a way also to share expertise and share data and share problem solving opportunities. And so I myself for decades have been team teaching with school people who, county people who are working in the induction program and teaching coaches and new teachers. And so we have faculty doing that on release, and that has just continued. And so it's a different way to think about also, and I feel like I wish IHEs would do the same, where we pull in the expertise from the schools more than just as adjunct faculty, although that happens a lot, but in additional ways.
Thank you, Member Riggs. Member Morrison, your hand is still up in the participant chat area. Did you have any other comments you wish to make?
No, I'm good.
Okay, great. Well, thank you all for this discussion, and hopefully you're reading the chat along the side from Marty and Poonam. And thank you all. I mean, thank you, Terry. Thank you, Miranda. Thank you, Poonam. This has been great. We really appreciate the efforts, and I'm glad to see that the conversation and discussion here has been useful. It has been for me as well, so thank you so much. Okay, again, this is information only, so we're going to incorporate the committee's thinking as Adam goes forward to the commission. So thank you all for that discussion. We do have it at 11:30, which will be our last item before lunch. So I see that Jake is online there. Mr. Shirley, do we have the other representatives from the institution?
We do indeed. I see them on Zoom.
Great. So
yes.
Committee members, we're going to move on to item number 15, which is the report of the revisit team to Summit Public Schools. Consultant Jake Schuler will introduce the item, and also joining our institutional representatives, Pam Lampke, Executive Director of Teacher Residency. Ms. Lampke, are you with us?
I am.
There you are. Great. Thank you. And then we also have Adam Carter, Executive Director of Marshall Street Initiatives. And I'm sorry, Mr. Carter, are you here? Mr. Shirley, do we know if Mr. Carter will be joining us?
I think he might be on the audio, but not the video.
Okay, that's fine. Mr. Carter, if you're with us, can you just let us know so that we can hear us and vice versa?
I am here, yes, just by voice only. Thank you.
No worries, thank you. And then we also have team lead Donna Elder. Ms. Elder, are you with us?
Good morning. Sorry, I was on mute.
Okay, no worries. Thank you for joining us. All right, anyone need to recuse themselves? Seeing none, Mr. Spiller, will you please begin?
Yes. Good morning, committee members, and good morning to Pam and Adam and Donna. Thanks for being with us today. I'm here today to report on the revisit to Summit Preparatory Charter High School, which took place February 26th and 27th of 2020. So it was just a month ago, although it feels like many more given the current state. And this was an in-person revisit, which we haven't had a few of those in a few weeks here. So I'll tell you a little bit more about it. So in order to fully understand the context of this revisit, let me provide a brief history. The initial site visit at Summit took place in November of 2018. And the initial site visit team reviewed Summit's unit and programs according to the common standards, to the program standards for Summit's induction program, and according to the program standards for their multiple single subject credential program. However, at the time of the initial visit, the site visit team reviewed Summit's multiple and single subject program as an intern program, not as a student teaching-based teacher residency program. As a result, a number of the stipulations recommended by the initial site visit team and placed on Summit by the COA were based on Summit not meeting intern preconditions or standards. Based on this initial visit, at the March 2019 COA meeting, the COA granted the status of accreditation with probationary stipulations and recommended closure of the intern program based on a specific interpretation of law about whether LEA programs can offer student teaching-based preliminary preparation programs. Summit appealed the decision of the COA to the full commission, and in April 2019, the commission set aside the COA's decision, changing the accreditation status to accreditation with major stipulations. So it was probationary from the COA, it changed to major under the commission, and they authorized Summit to operate its MSSS program not as an intern program, but as a student teaching-based residency program. The full decision by the commission is in the report. It should be noted that there were two other conditions that the commission also placed on Summit. The first one was that Summit, within 6 months of their decision, either do one of two things. Number one, contract with a regionally accredited IHE that has a teacher preparation program that's approved by the commission in order to get meaningful evaluation and feedback on how Summit addresses the standards. Or number two, to submit a proposal to be accredited as an experimental residency program pursuant to Ed Code section 44273. Summit chose to do the first option, which was to partner and contract with an IHE, and they've actually done so with two. The second condition placed on by the commission was that within 12 months, Summit host a revisit to confirm that their residency program is meeting all preconditions, common standards, and program standards for the preliminary teacher preparation program. In order to fulfill the directive of the commission and to ensure mutual expectations for the revisit, administrators from the Professional Services Division at the CTC and leadership at Summit determined the conditions and stipulations to be addressed by the revisit team based on the direction and decision from the commission in April 2019. The February revisit that I and the other two members conducted focused solely on those stipulations, and our team lead for the revisit, who is Donna Elder, who joins us today, she will detail in just a few moments what those stipulations were and how Summit addressed those. At the revisit, there were a total of 31 interviews conducted with various stakeholders throughout. The revisit team did not meet with completers during the revisit, given that the focus of this visit was on the redesigned program, and therefore there are technically no completers of this program. The leadership team at Summit was great to work with throughout the year leading up to the revisit and was extremely thorough in their preparation. They also had a great website that was well organized and easy to navigate. As Bob introduced, we have Pam Lamke and Adam Carter joining us today from Summit, and Donna Elder, our team lead, was a joy to work with and a fantastic leader throughout the revisit process. I'd also like to thank Pia Wong, who served as the second member of the revisit team. Both Donna and Pia worked diligently in preparation for the revisit and worked extremely hard during. I will now stop here and turn it over to Donna, our team lead, who will present the findings and the accreditation recommendation.
Good morning, everyone. Nice to be joining you by Zoom. I want to start by, as we know, in these accreditation visits, there's a lot of work, and it is both the accreditation side of the team from CTC as well as the site visit, as a website. So Wong and I and Jake formed the team, and I think I want to thank everyone for their hard work and diligence in this. And then on the Summit side, a special thank you to Pam Lamke, who was the executive director of the RED program and really coordinated all of the information we needed, coordinated everything that we needed during our visit. As Jake shared, we had a great website that was easy to navigate, and then whatever additional materials we needed at the site were for us. And Adam Carter, the executive director of Marshall Street, for all of his support. Everyone was responsive, and we were able to interview 31 stakeholders throughout our visit and get additional information from all of the documents and documents and the website that we reviewed. So it's just a little bit differently to start with saying that we had a number of regulations to look at. We looked at Common Standard 1 and Common Standard 3. We found both of those were met. We also looked at Program Standard 2 and Program Standard 3. We also found that those were met. So our recommendation is that Summit be accredited and all of the stipulations be removed. I want to sort of go in and talk a little bit about what we found and why we found that. So for Common Standard 1, we looked really at the vision and looking at how that changed as being a residency model. And it was very clear in all their documentations and is that they have a very clear vision. Everyone's able to talk about the purpose of doing in a residency model, the candidates, the cooperating teachers, leadership. And so it's very clear that they have established a residency model and their vision is clear. The other piece under Common Standard 1 that we looked at was, did they have a process and the procedure for their operating team to verify that they had met all of the proper qualifications as mandated by CTC? That process is in place and is very clear. And so they met that particular piece. And then the next part of Standard 1, I'm going to talk about in general because it dealt with Common Standard 1, Common Standard 3, and Program Standard 3. And this was around 600 hours for tracking how many how many hours students had in their clinical practice. And part of this in the prior visit, people were looking at this as an internal model. It was very different. So this one was a big piece throughout those three standards, and they have put in a very strong tracking system of each one of their candidates. They are very clear at particular benchmarks and specifically clear that students must pass the CSET before they can start collecting 600 hours of clinical practice. And in all of the documents we looked at, this was very clear. When we talked to candidates, they were very clear about when they began collecting their hours, and they made their system very transparent so that all affected stakeholders have availability to look at the system. So by putting this process and system in place, really met the stipulations for all three of those standards. This was also verified in the review their governors helped them with. They looked at those documents and helped them formulate those in a way that was very clear and has a process that it was assuring that every teacher that was doing their 600 did not do that until they passed their CSET. So under comes on, declare that they developed their partnerships. They have partnerships with 3 different institutions. They had a very strong partnership with Stanford, their Center for Assessment, Learning, and Equity. This was the group that they worked with very closely in the designing of their curriculum, which is very rigorous and meets and is aligned to the TPEs. They also partnered with Western Governors. Western Governors helped them in doing some processes and procedures and reviewed their documents and helped support them through the process. And then they have a newly partnership with High Tech High. These 3 are very strong, and we are hoping that they will continue to maintain those as they move forward. Common Standard 3 we talked about, and then so that for their single subject Standard 2 was the alignment to the TPEs. They developed a very strong and rigorous matrix that aligned all the TPEs, all of their assessments of when these were introduced, when they were practiced, and when they were mastered. And the candidates all were supported as they moved through those TPEs. The candidates and cooperating teachers could clearly talk about those alignments, and they had documentation that showed very clearly that these were aligned and that they met standard. And the Standard 3, as we talked about, again, was about tracking the 600 hours and being sure that students had passed their before they started clinical practice hours. Throughout the visit, this was all re-verified both through documentation and through our interviews, and our committee recommended accreditation.
All right, thank you, Ms. Elder, and also thank you, Mr. Schuler. This is now an opportunity for the institutional representative to briefly comment about the visit, reminding you it's not a time to dispute the team report, but rather provide any thoughts that you may have about the visit itself. So, Ms. Lamke, any comments you wish to offer?
I just want to thank Jake and Donna and Pia for a really positive experience and for giving us a chance to really show the great work that we're doing, the great work that our candidates and our faculty and our cooperating teachers are doing. Yeah, thank you so much.
Hey, thank you, Ms. Lamke. Any questions or comments from committee members? This is an action item, so an opportunity for you to engage in discussion. I see 2 hands. I see Committee Member Alvarado. We'll start with you, and then Committee Member Tchaikovsky.
Yes, I guess I have a clarifying question. With the commission on one of the conditions they placed was choices of either A or B, right? That there be a contract with a regionally accredited institution or to apply for an experimental residency program. It sounds like this report shows that the institution chose to go with working with a regionally accredited institution. And specifically, I guess I'm interested in getting an understanding as to what it means to contract with a regionally accredited institution. Does that mean that the students will be recommended by that regionally accredited institution? Was that the intent of the commission? Or because a contract is different than collaboration with, right? And so I would think that it's a more formalized process, so that in the same way as a district wants to partner with an accredited intern program, they still go through the one district that has that intern program approved, though it's separate. So I'm viewing it that way. Am I misunderstanding this?
Yes, I was just going to point you to the actual language of the commission's decision on page 3 of the agenda item, which is 1A. And the contract, it was for meaningful evaluation and feedback on how someone is addressing the commission's preconditions, common standards, and preliminary. So it was to give them additional feedback from a an IHE source that was has been commission accredited. And Terry, I know you wanted to add something.
And in addition, this does not have anything to do with who recommends. Summit is the recommending entity. They are approved as a student teaching based teacher preparation program for their single subject candidates.
Thank you. Member Tchaikovsky.
Yeah, I was also asking a question for clarification. My understanding now is that the students who are candidates in this teacher preparation program are not teachers of record. Is that in fact the case? Because if they were teachers of record, they could be on an intern pathway, but that's a key differentiator between intern and residents. So.
That's right. They are a student teaching based program, not interns.
Is that correct?
Pam, can you go ahead and clarify that?
Yes, our candidates are student teachers. They are not teachers of record.
Okay, and that's for like no part of their day, unlike before.
Correct, for no part of their day or their year in the program.
Thanks. It sounds like residency to me.
Any further discussion on that point?
Yes.
All right, Member Briggs.
I'm just another point of clarification. They're not, it sounds to me like they're not operating as an experimental residency program. They are just offering a student teacher program. And I had understood at one point that that was not allowed by K-12. Has that regulation changed, or did I miss it?
The commission made the determination last April that Summit and LEA is eligible to offer a student teaching based program. So they are offering a student teaching based program.
Co-Chair Moore.
Does that mean all LEAs are eligible to run a student teaching program at this time?
That is not what staff believes, no, but it is unclear.
Any other committee member have any comments? Or yeah, Member Forbes, and then we'll do Member Riggs. Cheryl, you're first.
Thank you. So I don't want to perseverate or sound like I'm splitting hairs, but when we fill out the annual data system, for example, we choose either student teaching, intern, or resident pathway, correct? So is resident necessarily student teaching, or is it some different pathway?
In the annual data system, within the student teaching umbrella, there's a residency option, a traditional student teaching option, and a co-teaching option. And so a program that is operating as a residency would select the student teaching residency option when they do the ADS.
Thanks for the clarification. I guess I haven't looked at it lately.
Any other comments or questions committee members wish to make? Yes, Member Briggs.
I guess I'm still confused about what was done. I guess I agree with what was said earlier, that I thought there were two decisions or options that were given, and one was to run an experimental student teaching program, and one was to contract. And when with the contract statement, I thought that that meant that I just understood that quite differently. And so the part that I'm struggling with, but the commission made its decision, and I guess I don't feel like I have any right to really struggle with it. But I'm just going to say it wasn't reviewed in its initial visit as a student teaching program. It was reviewed as an intern program. And so there could be questions related to being a student teaching program that really weren't pursued at the time of the initial visit because it was being reviewed as an intern program. But I don't know that that I have any right to ask any further questions about it. I just feel like I just don't have that right.
I think there's two things I would like to say. One of them is the commission did give Summit a choice. You can either contract with a regionally accredited institution for some meaningful evaluation and feedback, or you may propose to be an accredited experimental program. That was independent from being a student teaching based program. They were allowed to be a student teaching based program if they contracted. On the other topic of maybe they weren't reviewed thoroughly enough because they weren't looked at a year ago as a student teaching based program, they were looked at a year ago as a program. And in addition, they were found to have concerns related to the intern portion of the program. They had been reviewed for everything in the preliminary single subject program standards, and they were found to meet all of that, except for the intern components that they were not in compliance with. So I think we can be confident that with the revisit that took place with Dr. Wong and Dr. Elder, they looked at the program very carefully. In fact, in talking with the team, there were some great accolades for the coursework, that the structure of this program, high quality coursework, there was no concern that the candidates are not getting the preparation that they need to be effective teachers. So a year ago, even though they were looked at as an intern program, they were reviewed as a teacher preparation program being delivered in an intern model. It couldn't be turned around the other way, but the way it was done, I'm very confident that the institution was looked at as a teacher preparation entity.
Member Tchaikovsky.
Yes, thank you. I have to say that after listening to the last couple of people speak, I want to reiterate Chairman Moore's question, because I represent an LEA, and to me the key difference between residency and internship lies with the recommending authority. And for an intern program, interns are recommended by IHEs, and student teachers are also recommended by IHEs. And so I, like Member Riggs and others, I am not sure how this particular case fits into the precedent of how I understand the standards to be implemented. And again, you know, clearly there's history on this decision, but when faced with the choice of supporting this recommendation or not, I'm not sure that I can do that, knowing that this does challenge precedent.
I guess what I would say at this point is the commission made the determination that this is a student teaching based program. And a student teaching based program can be offered in a student teaching traditional, it could be offered co-teaching, it could be offered residency. So that is something the commission decided. And we don't need to go into why they decided it, but that is what they decided last April. So the report in front of you is about the stipulations related to, was there sufficient content-specific pedagogy being given? What was the program of high quality in the areas that the program was not seen to be of sufficient quality a year ago? And so you have the report here about the stipulation on the infrastructure issues, the meeting about with stakeholders and how they work with stakeholders, and the course of study, fieldwork, and clinical practice at this point in time, the number of hours, that kind of thing. So it is a student teaching based program, and you're looking at a report from a student teaching based program, and you're making a decision on that report.
Thank you for the clarification, Terry. Any other comments or questions?
I'm sorry, Bob, for interrupting, but
no worries.
This is Katrina, and I guess what I'm still unclear after having read this report about which of the two choices were actually pursued. That's not clear to me, despite the fact that the focus of the report is on the student teaching aspects of this program. No, I don't question the quality of coursework, but to me, that's not what those two choices were predicated upon. So for the record, that's my opinion.
So the choices were that they either contract with an institution of higher education that is a commission-approved teacher preparation program, that for the purposes of sort of evaluative, kind of peer support, kind of looking at their programs, giving them guidance and feedback. That's what they have done with Western Governors as well as with High Tech High Graduate School of Education. They did not choose to go the experimental route. So those were the two options. They chose the first.
Well, then it was unclear to me as a member of the COA that the purpose of the contract was not to gain the authority and recommending ability of a program that has those credentials. So that was unclear. And again, numerous people have asserted that this is about gaining access to consulting and to expertise. That's not my recollection of the rationale behind offering that choice the first time. So I will just state that as well.
It might help if I read the paragraph above the two choices. I'm going to the letter on the accreditation webpage. Mm-hmm. The commission further determined to set aside the decision of the COA regarding Summit and assigned it the decision accreditation with major stipulations as the accreditation status. The commission accredited Summit's preliminary teacher preparation program as a residency model with the following stipulations. So the commission approved them as a residency model, and that is what they are. And residency is a student teaching based model where the candidate is in experienced mentor teacher's classroom. The funding requirements required to be at least for half time of during a full school year from the day school opens to the day school closes. So they are approved as this residency student teaching based model. In addition, they needed to do one of the two things, which they chose A, to partner to get substantive, meaningful feedback.
All right, thank you, Ms. Clark. Are there any other comments or questions? All right, seeing none, this is an action item. So again, I would refer all the committee members onto item 15 in the agenda where it has a detailed report. Any committee member wish to make a motion?
Thank you, Marty.
Member Martinez.
I motion that we accept the site visits report and the recommendation to move from accreditation with major stipulations to accreditation.
Okay, so moved. Is there a second? Is there a second by committee member Hillis? Any further discussion? All right, Secretary, please call the roll.
Jomeline Bulatayo. Jomeline.
Aye.
Mike Hillis.
Aye.
Marty Martinez.
Aye.
Cheryl Forbes. Cheryl Forbes.
Abstain.
Bob Fraley.
Abstain.
Anna Moore.
Abstain.
Gerard Morrison.
Gerard, can you state your vote as well? I'm sorry, Gerard, can you unmute? You're muted right now.
Oops, still muted. It was unmuted for a second, then it was muted again. There we go.
Was that abstain, Gerard? Can you put a thumbs up so we know if that's correct? Thank you. Gerard abstains.
Okay. Aris Riggs.
Abstain.
Jose Luis Alvarado,
Nay.
Kathy
I'm sorry,
Gracia,
we can't hear that. Abstain? Aye? He said nay.
Committee
Thank
Member
you.
Alvarado, was yours abstain?
Mine was the nay.
Nay.
Thank you.
Kathy Gracia,
Aye.
Cynthia Amos, Cynthia Amos, Cynthia,
Oh, I'm sorry, my abstain.
Katrina Tchaikovsky.
Abstain.
Thank you.
Ms. Bernardo, will you please read back the vote count at this point?
We have 1, 2, 3, 4 yeses. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 abstains and 1 no.
So,
Hey, Ms. Hickey, seeing at this point that there is not a majority vote in favor of the motion, nor does it deny at this point, where are we in the voting?
we need 3 more votes to let this pass, or it's going to have to go to the full commission. Is there anything that we can do to address any information? The commission has determined that they are able to operate this program and this program only. So I don't know if there's any additional information we can provide, but we may need a moment. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Katrina has her hand.
Okay, let me just ask first for clarification. Is the concern amongst the committee members who are abstaining, are you abstaining based upon the commission's decision? Or are you abstaining based upon the recommendation of the team report in line with the commission's decision? And Ms. Tchaikovsky, you may speak if you'd like to.
My decision to abstain is based on the fact that what I believe I am voting for does not reflect accurately the record as it has evolved from the commission meeting to the present day. So my read of the report does not reflect my record as documented in previous minutes from the COA, what it is that was advanced to the commission. And I recognize that the commission made a decision, but as a member of the COA, my understanding is that my role is to support the standards for accreditation. And I have concerns that a recommendation of accreditation in this instance will not support those standards. That's why I've abstained.
Thank you. I see that Committee Member Amos would wish to speak.
I abstained. However, my abstention was to the commission. So much had been said, I had lost track of the commission's set aside. And so I would vote yes, considering the commission approved the program to operate, right? That's my understanding. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's correct. Yes,
Correct. So
they absolutely approve them to operate.
Yeah,
So that's 5
we're-
yes votes. Well, so Michelle, you'll change the record to show that member Amos is voting yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Committee Member Morrison, I saw your hand up.
We may want to take a break, a lunch break, but and return back to this item after lunch. But
We can do that. I do see Mr. Morrison, Committee Member Morrison wishes to speak.
I don't want to change my vote. I'm just explaining that I feel I have to abstain because my inclination was to vote no, but that would be contradicting the commission. And so I felt it appropriate just to abstain.
again, it's very difficult to hear you. Mary, I see you on. Did you want to say something? I'm sorry to put you on the spot. Just trying to.
Not just now, I'm just listening.
Okay.
Co-Chair Moore.
Is that any better?
Oh, I'm sorry. Committee Member Morrison, would you like to speak again?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, if I can paraphrase perhaps what I thought I heard you say is that your vote to abstain was, if I understood you correctly, that you were accepting the commission's position, but you were abstaining based upon the team report itself? Or if that's not it, could you please clarify?
Can you hear me now?
If you could lean in a little closer, we can.
Okay, can you hear me now?
That's better. Thank you.
Okay. I'm not changing my vote. My vote is abstain because my inclination was to vote no, but I realized that would be contradicting the commission, and so I felt it appropriate to abstain.
All right, thank you. Co-Chair Moore, do you wish to add something?
I agree with Member Morrison. I feel like I'm hesitant to go against the commission. I want the program to know that this is, at this time, not so much about questioning the quality of the program or what they're doing, the depth of preparation that they're giving. It's not that. It's, as Member Chakowski said, our role is to ensure that institutions are standing up and addressing all the standards, and that we are following ed code. And I feel like it sets a precedent that goes against the whole accreditation process to singly approve one institution to provide a program that at this time we have said is not in alignment with ed code and the standards. I could be wrong with using the term ed code, but right now we know that LEAs have not been given the authority to approve or provide student teaching programs. And until we go through the proper procedures for this being part of our credentialing process, I think that's why I'm abstaining. I'm uncomfortable saying yes to this.
All right, thank you.
That last piece was very confusing. Say yes to this as in yes as in a vote, or because you just said I'm abstaining.
I am abstaining.
Okay.
Sorry.
So you're not saying, okay, so you're not saying yes to the vote.
No, I am not. I'm still abstaining.
Okay. Bob, we would like to
yeah.
check with our legal counsel. We have a vote of 5 yeses, and we need to find out whether how the abstentions are counted in terms of a yes or in terms of passage. It's a parliamentary procedure kind of question. Okay. 5 yes votes.
That's certainly acceptable.
1 no.
Before we do, okay.
And
before we do that, Member Forbes, I didn't see your hand up. Did you wish to make a
6
last comment before we break?
I just wanted to echo what Member Moore just said, that it's not a reflection of the quality of the program as I read about in the report, but rather my confusion and discomfort with what it seems to me is not part of the standards.
All right, thank you. So Ms. Hickey, it seems like appropriate that we should go ahead and take a break for lunch at this point. And would you like us to reconvene prior to the 1 o'clock time certain, or what would your recommendation be?
Yeah, 1 o'clock is fine, I guess. Yeah, 1 o'clock. And if Pam and Donna, I don't know what kind of time you have, and Jake, we'd like to return back to this after 1.
If you're able to do that, yeah. So Ms. Lamke, would that work
Yes.
for you?
Yes.
Okay, and also then Ms. Elder. All right.
Yes.
All right, so thank you both, and also thank you, Mr. Schuler. So we will reconvene. Then we'll call the Committee on Accreditation on break for lunch until 1 p.m. And if I can